I'll just turn my cam off every couple seconds, every minute or two.
We're live. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
What's up?
Yeah, we got a good show today. We're going to learn a little bit more about our buddy Bobby Gately over there.
Buddy.
And
Buddy.
maybe talk a little bit about really cool install. Jeffrey, how do you say his last name? Is it Hald? Jeffrey Hald. Super cool SQ build. He's with MTI, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And maybe talk a little bit about what Mr. Hank Veach did this weekend. That 173 plus in Super Street 1-2, pretty insane. But do you guys want to start off with some of that stuff, or you just want to jump right into some Bobby time?
Let's go into
Bobby time.
Oh, I think we should hit a couple angles, some of the other stuff first before we.
That'll work.
Let my coffee do some work.
Well, I guess let's talk about Hank's build a little bit, because I'll wait till Drew's completely digested and ready to talk about Jeff's, because I don't know anything about
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to fill me in on Hank's build. So.
I was gonna just say I don't really know anything about Hank's build except for that it did a 73 something this weekend, and it's Super Street 1-2. It's built in one of those little terras that was originally built as I think it was originally built as an SSX build, and it was lifted, had crazy everything. Basically pushed the rules until the rules were like, yeah, it's in the rules, but we don't like it. So they changed rules. They made the thing back to mostly normal height, I think. But yeah, I did a 73 something in Super Street 1-2, which is just a few years ago. Like, I remember.
You got any pictures of this somewhere? Can we see some pictures?
I could find some. Well, I remember McCain broke a 70 just a few years ago in Super Street, like 3-4, and it was crazy. So to have it done in 1-2 is just.
And to do a 73, I mean, 3DBs is like big jump. I mean, man, I've heard stories of guys that that had like extreme builds or Super Street builds, those high big super. They'd be like, dude, I worked on my shit all week long, all week. I had all subs out, and I was fiberglassing and building and grinding and shaping and polishing and waxing. And they're like, I got it all back together and I gained a 10th. Yes. And you're like, oh my God, it was like 100 hours of work to get. Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's a little
template or 74.
Yeah, there it is, 73, 879. Back to, I guess that's the first score, and then backed it up with the 73, 8. Yeah, like did you see this thing before it was like this? Like when it was really lifted high and it had I don't know what it had for subs, but
no, I didn't. That's the first I've ever seen of any of that.
Drew, is this the one that has the 34, or is that the 34 salt amps in it, or is that his other build? The van. Where did it go? Damn it. All right. Here's the run.
Oh, yeah. I have a helper.
Drew's device is missing.
Holy moly. It sounds pretty cool with the headphones on, huh?
Yeah, you can actually hear it a little bit.
It's a little more realistic. I'm like, hey, cool.
But yeah, I actually don't know what's in it. I'm pretty sure it's just 2 subs. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I mean, I hope it's just 2 subs. That'd be weird if it was more.
It's got to be 1 or 2. I mean,
1 or 2. Yeah.
I don't think it's 1, but I'm pretty sure it's 2. I don't know if he's actually ever posted much about what's in it. But I just know that it was just a crazy number. I don't even know how much it broke the record by, but yeah. All right, Drew's back.
It's kind of funny. Like we're like looking at Hank's stuff there, and and he's this champion, and he's got all these records, and he's like working his out. And then you look at his feed and you would think it'd be like, here's my build and here's all these, and it's all, you know, Hank fucking Jr. and Garth Brooks and shit and random MMA fight nonsense and whatever other like shit he's looking at. And you're like, trying to find pictures of your build, man. Maybe it's in his pictures if you go to pictures, but who knows what you'll find there. Hank's a pretty interesting guy. So.
Yeah, Hank's one of my favorite people in car audio. I love seeing him at shows, and we actually play a lot of video games together. Let's see here. Hank's photos.
Does Hank have like a regular job? Is he?
I don't know what Hank actually
does. Is he a real
does.
person? Yeah.
Okay, this is.
He's real, unfortunately.
Don't be grumpy.
No,
Drew.
unfortunately, dude, he's a good guy. All right, here we go.
He did be talking shit on the internet sometimes, but that's pretty standard.
So I'm guessing this is what he used for the 1-2. There's holes for 2 more, but
wow.
Yeah.
I wonder, you know, if he just left that wide open, if he made a blank off for it, or what the hell.
I don't know. There isn't a whole lot of other pictures of it. I don't know if you got to see this at our booth. It's Slam. That thing was crazy.
Yeah, I got it was super cool. I mean, what was really wild is you know, he was showing me that it was like clamping less than 1,000 watts, and it was playing like 13 hertz or something like that. And you know, the steel was cold because it had been cold all night, and it was, you know, 10:30, 11 a.m. You walk up to that thing and it's like piston of air out through the doorway. It's like cold air. I was like, this is the weirdest demo I've ever had. It's so strange. And it was like really like smooth and my mind wants to say buttery, but it was like, it was like chilly. I'm like, I'm kind of cold. This is weird. And it's like cold ass air flowing, you know, agitating past you, you know, and it was really fun. I really liked it a lot. And I'm like, man, I don't know what this thing will be like at the end of the day when the sun's beating on it. You know, it might be, you know, like any other big, crazy, loud build, but I'd never seen anything blow so much cold air before. You know, it was
the exact opposite of a normal demo.
Yeah.
Where it's like a blow dryer.
Yeah, like in the Tahoe, it's a oven towards the end of the day.
Yeah, we had like pretty substantial sparks and arcs flying out of Drew's motors.
Not parts, just sparks.
Sparks and arcs. Sparks and arcs.
Yeah. When did that happen?
At Slam.
That one sub has been throwing sparks for like 6 months now. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
What
was really crazy was Clippo was getting so much excursion on those woofers that the tinsel leads were ripping off of the spider, and then they were touching each other and the cone, and it was like a spark show for a minute there a few times. And they were like, what in the fuck is going on? And they climbed in there and looked at it. And then it was like, we shouldn't play it. We don't want to risk taking out a Salt 12K. You know, it's like bad enough we already have to recone all of these woofers to make them not have that happen. But if we start taking out these amps, that'll be bad news. And I was like, don't play.
Yeah, I mean, they had those subs in like 1 cube with all that power. I mean, those things were probably just maxing out. Just
for sure. No, I think might even try it with a little less air, with that much power.
Something like that, for sure.
I don't know. I think it was probably a back pressure problem, but I don't know. That's a lot of power in it. A lot of pressure in a tiny space.
A lot of fourth orders that I design a 12 will be in less than a foot on the sealed side.
On that much power?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it ain't
maybe that's why I'm fucking up.
Either way.
Who knows? I don't know. I'll tell you, the box design software will probably say that I'm full of shit, but I don't know. My shit usually works like a champ. And if it doesn't, I build it again, and then it does. So there's that. So yeah.
Drew, you want to talk a little bit about Jeff's? You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let me get his stuff up here.
I'll pull the email up so I can make sure I read it correctly because it's a long list of things.
Okay.
You can just pull pictures up, and I can read. I can read off of the email here.
Sweet.
I saw some pictures of this a while back. One of the groups that I'm part of that Jeff is in, And I was like really blown away. It's super beautiful, and the fabrication work is like so elegant. And I'm dying to hear this thing, because I mean, I know he's a super smart guy, and he obviously worked his butt off on it. And I can only imagine, the effort into making it sound perfect. And then, few people that have heard it that have, talked about it are like, this is like the most amazing thing ever. So
it is really, really good. It sounds fantastic, and it's also very, very loud and impactful. It's an awesome demo for sure.
I actually got a demo of it at Knowledge Fest 2000. I'm going to say 19 probably. And he did the whole like demo of what he would do for a judge, basically, and broke down the entire trunk. Like all those panels come off and could get to every single fuse wire, everything within like a certain amount of time. It's pretty crazy. I actually have a video of it. I'm sure I'll find it eventually, but keep going through with these pictures.
Oh. So I'm actually not sure how we started talking originally, but he has, since we've become friends, has been invaluable to helping me learn about sound quality and just to further my knowledge in all of it, because he's so knowledgeable in sound quality and just audio in general. It's awesome to be able to talk with him so much and get so much advice from him. He's the one who drove me to switch to JL VXI amps in the Duramax. Okay. It was well worth the swap. They're fantastic. But I guess he's 30 now. But whenever he won last year, he won the IASCA Triple Crown, which is install, SQ, and I think SPL. Like it's all three rounded up. It's like a point system. He won that with all JL audio at 29 years old. I think one of the youngest to win it, if not the youngest. But the most recent thing that I've been to a show with him was the Lone Star Throwdown. That was a show out in like Dallas area where he got 5th place in the money round, which is a $10,000 money round. So like the top 5 places got money, like hundreds of dollars, to I think first place got $4,000. So he got 5th place, and he was the youngest person up there by 20 years minimum.
Wow.
Well, except for Natan. I can't tell how old Natan is. He's the guy who actually won the money round. He's the lead engineer for Harman Group's DSP division. So
last time when I heard it, he had a single sundown. No, wait. Was it a sundown?
It would have been B2 probably. His car was a B2 car before it was JL, I think.
It had everything JL, but it wasn't this sub setup. God, I can't remember. Maybe I'm mixing 2 builds up. But you want to read off what he's got there and what basically this thing is consisting of?
Let's see if he sent
sent
me a list of everything in there. Oh, I have a pretty good idea what's in it. So
I have the list. I could show it to you. It's right here. It's the email you sent me.
I thought you meant like an equipment list.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that this doesn't show equipment. Okay, it just says 1,200 hours into the install. That's a lot of hours. 252 button-head stainless steel bolts on the trunk alone.
Yeah, it's impressive. So this, like it says, 140 dB capable SPL preset that still has a wide bandwidth and a 9 hertz pressurized. 9 hertz pressurized in his SQ preset. So play down to 9 hertz.
Okay.
That is insane.
Yeah, that thing's gnarly.
And it's so well dialed in. He played a song called Cannon Fire, or like a thing called Cannon Fire for me at MTI a couple months ago. And it felt like I got hit in the chest. Like it felt like actual cannon fire. Like, man, what's it sound like with the rear subs on? Because he has a front sub and then there's 2 rear W7s. And he's like, they were on. I was like, no, they weren't. Like, because I felt nothing from behind me. Like, no energy. You know how you feel the energy? I didn't feel it. So I played it again, and sure enough, other things were stroking on the cannon fire. That's how well dialed in his phase is and the time and all of that. It's wild.
It's pretty cool. He has the iPad in the center
Mhm.
console there. When I heard it, it was pretty crazy too. He played a song that goes, it sounds like somebody's writing on the windshield.
Yep.
So it was like playing from left to right, and it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, there's like the standard go-to SQ demo tracks, and that's one of them. I think it's called Notebook or Notepad or something.
Something like that. Yeah, every single wire's labeled. It's the amount of detail, and he did all this himself, all this fabrication.
I think most of it. I know someone else had a hand in the trunk as well. I can't remember who it was though.
Yeah,
But somebody else had a hand in the trunk in some capacity.
All right, well, heck yeah, man. That's our build of the week, and
So I'll be going back next week. Actually, I'll be at MTI Wednesday, and me, Jeffrey, his fiance, and Brandy are whenever Brandy gets there on Friday, she's gonna help tune. She's gonna help be at ear for tuning. But us three Thursday, Friday, whenever are gonna gut my doors and properly treat them the sound quality way, because I didn't do it right the first time. Well, I didn't do it well.
If you guys look here in the comments, it says James Davidson did the trunk build, and I did all the interior wiring. Not me, but whoever that is. That must be.
That's gotta be Jeffrey. Then.
That's got to be Jeff right there. Right on.
I guess it could be it.
And then another guy mentioned, Scott Scheffler said, if you guys haven't been in Boyd's Charger, I have been in Boyd's Charger. I got the pleasure of helping him out with that thing when he was on his way down to LA. He was having an electrical issue, and he stopped here at Gately Audio at like 9 o'clock in the evening. And me and my technicians all showed up and troubleshooted it and helped him fix a simple factory wire. We got him fixed up and got him on the road, and he got his way down to Knowledge Fest a couple days later. But man, he gave us some quick demos when we got it fixed up, and that thing was probably the most beautiful thing that I've ever got to put my ears on. I'm really looking forward to someday listening to Jeff's build. So
yeah. Do you think it might be at Surf possibly?
I have no idea.
Well, I mean, he's not far from there, so there's a chance that it gets down there, right?
Where's Jeff?
No, I'm talking about Boyd.
Oh. Well, I don't know if he's up there. I think he moved down to Texas as well, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
Oh.
Yeah, Jeffrey's in College Station.
Yeah, Jeffrey won't be at Surf, but
yeah. But I thought Jeremy moved down that way as well, but I could be totally wrong. So anyway,
yeah,
very cool.
Yes, sir. So let's turn our attention over to you, buddy.
Okie dokie.
Where
should we begin?
More about you, and let everybody watching get a taste. Our boy. But yeah, I don't know if
you meant like a half a beer, buddy. Like, wow. No.
I don't know if you want to start like that early car audio picture, or if you want to go further back, or
I suppose just like really briefly, like the beginning of fabrication for me. My dad built like 3 different show car Corvettes. First one, he got my mom a 69 Corvette. It's this beautiful gold Corvette. And my dad kind of got a little bit obsessed with it, and he started kind of making it a little bit nicer. And my mom thought that was pretty cool. And then he took it to a couple car shows, and then she was like, get your own vet. Like, that's mine. I don't want you to take it away for the weekend and take it to a car show. So he bought himself one. And then he was obsessed with that thing. He was like rebuilding the engine and painting the block and doing the brakes, taking the calipers apart and making this beautiful, like, super duper show car that he drove to work every day. And I just thought that was kind of how you did it. You work your ass off on it. You keep it clean as you can, but you use it. He's out doing donuts and autocross racing it. And guys are like, dude, this thing's so clean. Why would you do that? And he's like, what, and then as I got a little bit older, and we'd work on my bicycles. And I remember my dad getting a little obsessed with my bicycle and like helping me modify the seat of my bike to reduce weight and make it cool. And then when I was a little bit older, I had my stepdad. He was like a super handy guy. He worked as an electrician, and he would do like remodel work around the house that him and my mom lived in, and I naturally became his like super duper assistant in everything we did. So, and years of working with my stepdad, building decks and doing electrical work and finish work and making my mom this cool like mirror makeup thingy, and it was pretty interesting. I learned a lot of, and then he would help me build parts for my RC cars. So we would like fabricate components for RC cars. And then, I would do this stuff to make my RC cars lighter. And then he like made fun of me about having a whole bunch of wire in it. So then I'd make my wires as short and clean as possible. And I learned to solder, and this kind of went on, for a few years hanging out with my stepdad. And then when I was in high school, a buddy of mine was putting his audio system in his car, and he didn't have any understanding of how the wiring worked. And I'm like, it's a 12-volt battery and it's DC, and this is ground and this is hot, and and I wired things up and helped him with it and made it work. And he was like, oh wow, you're the best. And I was like, I thought this was normal knowledge for people to have, and then my buddy Jason Polovich, I think I was like 14 years old and he was a freshman. So he got a couple of Rockford Series 1 10-inch subwoofers from like his brother's buddy. He's like, here, you can have these for your car. And Jason couldn't even drive yet. So we, we're like looking at his 65 Mustang in the front yard, like, what do we do now? And he's like, I got these. And it's like, cool, let's build a box. And I built this really, really shitty box. But that was the first ever box I ever built. And, I was using skills that I learned from like my stepdad using a jigsaw, because it was the only saw we had, and a shitload of silicone and a bunch of black spray paint. And I made this hideous box, but it was solid and it worked. And
did you just guess on specs? You just put it together and cut a hole?
It was a sealed box, so it was what fit, and I'm guessing it was probably pretty close to what was appropriate for those subwoofers, because this was the beginning of subwoofers being engineered to be super versatile on purpose, because they knew that idiots were going to be using them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, here we are. Hi.
It's us.
Watch me go. I mean, it's kind of crazy how there are certain products that look at a lot of the kicker products. Both of you guys are extremely familiar. An L712 will work pretty well in a sealed box between like 1 cubic foot to like 2.5. Those are like the recommended specs, sealed. And then ported, it's like, 1 1/4 to like 4.
Yeah.
You're like, really? And it's like, yeah,
Whatever
really.
fits.
And then you just throw the shit in a box and it's gonna work pretty damn good. And then there are obviously products that are a bit more specific about, and they're a little more finicky with regards to what they perform in. But if you hit that right, it's really outstanding. A really good example of that are like the DC audio subwoofers, like a DC XL12. If you have that thing in like 1.75 with just the right amount of port area, ooh boy, it's going to be tough to beat that thing. It's an absolute beast. They're musical. They're beautiful.
They on the same term, they also work very well in small ported enclosures.
Well, that is a pretty damn small ported enclosure for a 12-inch sub, 1.75 to 1.5. Right.
If you ask the internet, that's huge. Well, it depends on what side of the internet you're on.
I don't ask the internet a fucking thing. I might go, okay, what not to do? Hey guys, what should I do? And be like, not that, not that, not that, not that. Just lining that shit up with idiots giving me their opinion that they're not educated in. That's Facebook. But
that's kind of like the guy earlier telling me the proper way to set your gain is just turn your gain all the way up and then control it with a bass knob. And like, but I think those you might have mentioned that said, SPL guys will do that, but it makes sense. They're not out there trying to play music.
Yeah, that's not.
I know one other crazy guy that did that too was Huey from JY, but that guy's just crazy altogether.
So
He's in whatever he wants.
I asked somebody
he just
what
run that
they
thing
had
like wild.
in the Terra. For the SS 1 to 2, it's 2 compact version 3 18s. For SS 3 to 4, it's 4 V2 18s, and it'll do almost a 76 in 3 to 4 apparently.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
So with regards to that gain thing, I learned this really wise saying from one of the instructors at the Jiu-Jitsu Academy where I train, and that is everybody's got their way to do it, and then there's the right way. So
But
turn the gain all the way up is not the right way. If you're in SPL competition, whatever you're doing, if you're winning, is absolutely the right way. If you're driving around listening to music, my way is the right way.
And then if you're trying to give people advice, there's absolutely a right way.
Yeah. Usually the best advice I can give anybody is shut the fuck up. I mean, like, I have my own moments where sometimes I'm just going and I'm like, oh, I should have shut the fuck up a long time ago. I'd be way better off. Anyway, so where were we?
You had just built your first box.
Oh, I built the first ass box. It was the Series 110s, and I'm willing to bet that I was probably somewhere right smack in the middle of the sealed box specs for those things, because it was like this flea market amp that I think Jason paid $40 for, and I don't like. It had like 10 gauge wire that was like 9-strand nonsense.
Yeah.
And that shit was pounding like crazy. And people were like, oh, dude, it's so sick. And it was like, it was some pretty funky stuff. It was free subwoofers and a $40 amp. And I think we spent and I made the box out of, we went to Home Depot and I designed the box based on the material we would buy, which was shelf boards out of like particle board. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, it comes 12 by this, and your car fits this. And so it was like 12 by 12, and then I cut a piece, and it was like an angle, and I like, okay, cool. And then we went home, and I had to make minimal amount of cuts because I didn't want to be making a bunch of long ass cuts with a jigsaw at an angle. So anyway, and I used lots and lots of clear silicone. It took like probably 2 days for some of these like 1/4-inch gaps that I filled with silicone to like cure. It was like outgassing in the garage. You could like smell it in the house. It's like, remember the 1990 or 89 or whatever year it was. The silicone and adhesive products aren't like what we have now. That shit took a minute to dry, and it had a lot. Remember in the Kicker and Rockford manuals, the subwoofers, they were like, don't use this product. Don't use these silicone products in your box, or the fumes will attack the adhesives used to put the subwoofers together, and your subwoofers will fall apart. I never saw that actually happen, but I was always worried about it because I was like, how the fuck am I going to fill this big ass gap I made in this shitty box I built with a fucking jigsaw? So, but anyway, I did let them dry for a while, so there was that. But anyway, I'm like glancing at the what's it called, the comments here just a little bit, seeing what people are talking about. Anyway,
that's a good one.
Right. Yeah. I say that all the time, Facebook user. I like, that's the thing on the internet, is not to read shit on the internet. I mean, it's so often the least educated, least amount of experience. I mean, literally people that have never done a fucking thing that relates to what they're talking about. And they're like, yes, what you need to do is you need to like turn up the bass boost all the way. Well, no, that's how I found that it makes the most power. And
Yep. That's
yeah,
it.
there's
when Gately Audio makes amplifiers, none of them will have bass boost on them. So you guys know. I'm sure you guys are going to be proud of me about that one.
Oh yeah,
so,
good.
I use my bass boost all the time.
Oh, motherfuckers want to argue about it. They were like, dude, it made it louder. I'm like, no, it didn't.
At 40 hertz, it may have.
It doesn't actually make it. I mean, if you just turned it up, like the volume,
you would get to that same volume.
Right. Yeah. You'll get there. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So it says, I know I found this quote: wise people understand the need to consult experts. Only fools are confident they know everything.
Yeah. That's why I call you guys. And
hi, Jeffrey.
I don't know shit.
Yeah, I don't know why I see people called Facebook user. It fucks it. I got to figure out how to like log in or sign up to this shit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you seeing? Are you guys both seeing?
I might disappear for a second. I'm gonna try something. Well, no, because I see Scott.
Yeah, I saw Scott too. I see my wife. I see Allison.
I see,
and Andy and Carol and user. Scott. It must be
Same.
something. These guys have like hidden identification shit or something. I thought when our first episode, I thought there were people that like had me blocked. I'm like somebody had me blocked.
Yeah, it's got to be some type of like privacy setting they have or something. Like, let me go. Well, if we know this Jeffrey, let me go pull up his account and like open it in like a window I'm not signed into and see how much of his account I can see.
I mean, you comment though. You commented from YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like his account is pretty locked up.
Yeah, it must be
go to
private.
my Facebook. Well, no, it looks the same.
Because Mike Young's is coming up, and
yeah,
he's on private. Oh, what's this?
Anyway.
See, Facebook user is where it's shared to groups or pages that haven't given permission to StreamYard.
Thanks,
so y'all
Scott.
need to go to the actual Quietly Loud page to go watch the video. That's all I'm hearing.
Okay. I guess that makes sense. Okay. Well, let's I'm going to pull up one of these pictures and we can fast forward real quick to this. All your
So briefly, we'll go a little fast forward through like the high school and sort of like college stuff. This is right after that, but through most of high school, I was like everybody's car audio buddy, and they would feed me. You know, I'd be like, buy me dinner or lunch and dinner and breakfast the next day and whatever else, and we'd just work on their audio all weekend, and it would be a good time. So anyway, and I had my own beat in the car, and my audio system was pretty ridiculous. I had 412s in the car, and it was pretty loud. Box that I built, modified a couple different ways, and found some performance, things. And then I had some pretty janky stuff. I had like Jensen, flea market shit, Rockwood amplifiers, and then
was there like anything in particular that made you like choose audio? I mean, because you did BMX, did all other kinds of stuff. Like, what was there something that made you gravitate towards it, or like
I enjoyed the building. I mean, here I am, right?
But I mean, you can build anything, right?
I loved wiring up everybody's stuff. I loved taking their cars apart and fixing them, putting them back together correctly. I loved building boxes for people. That was the biggest fun for me. And then, getting them to perform correctly, I wanted to make sure what I was doing worked right, and I was learning. It was kind of cool. A big pivotal moment is when I bought my first brand new subwoofers, and it was the first time I bought my own brand new subs, and they were Kicker Comp 12s. And I opened up the little book, and it had like box information in there, and I was like, oh, I'm going to follow this. And then it had a phone number, and I called Kicker, and I was like, hey, and I was thinking about building one of those 4th order band pass, like with a sub inside. And I spoke to the woman, Lori, I believe, at Kicker, and she was in tech support back then. And I think she's still the same woman that's been there. She's still there. And she was so helpful to me. It's like, I mean, like, she was such a huge, jump start for me into what my, whole career is now, because just a few things that she said to me. She sent me all these different, specifications for boxes that they designed in Leap, right? And it was all this very detailed information about port area and port length, and the sealed volume and the ported volume, and whether you use polyfill or not. And it had this graph, and it was always a camel hump. And she's like, here's this one, and this is this information. And I'm like making notes because I'm on the phone with her. And she's like, and we tested this one, and it was really good. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, this one we tested as well, and they weren't quite as good. So build either of those. But here's this one that looks a little better on paper. And here's this one. And that we built this one and we tested it, and it was really good, meant like more to my career than you can think. Like, I mean, that's like the whole premise of everything I do now, because you could beep a bopple and there's guys that are in this world that talk about box design, and they're like, it's all science and math. And I'm like, okay, well, I get it. So was the Saturn V rocket. Okay. It was all science and math, but they still built test rockets and some of them blew up. And so I'm pretty sure that even the most badass car audio software in the world, it's got some pretty significant fucking flaws in it, and we could be better by doing some testing. And I found that we can be significantly better with most stuff, especially if you get to build several different iterations of the product, right? So that's
Right.
what has turned into these things over your stack behind me.
So
Some of these things are less than a year old of product development, but I won't sell them because what we've done in the last 6 months has taken them further. And customers are like, can I get this one right now? And I'm like, kinda, but I don't want to give it to you because what we make now currently is better. So this one's going to stay right here.
You mentioned the Saturn V. So the part of there's actually an issue with you talk about, the computers couldn't figure it out. Well, they didn't really have that back then, but the Rocketdyne F1, which is the engine used in the Saturn V, they could not recreate it as it was now, even if they wanted to, because so much was done away from the schematics that in testing, and then just one-off custom-made parts that they only had 10 of, they're just gone. And the people who designed it are dead. So they could not recreate it.
They'd have to start over. They'd have to blow up test rockets over and over again to figure out how to make it again. Yeah.
To figure out to fix what they had to fix then by pen and paper and doing it.
Yeah, to try to rebuild it, they'd completely rebuild something completely different. They might end up with a rocket that would work, but it would not be the same at all.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. I watched a bunch of engineering YouTube videos, and that was one. That was a big one. How they couldn't rebuild it if they wanted to at this point.
Is that part of the reason why they say we couldn't get back to the moon?
No. Because we have the power to go. We just don't have the vehicles currently to go. Nothing's designed to go that far right now. When we could, which that hasn't been a mission since we beat the Russians. Well, the USSR, and they're gone. But yeah, there was some thread about that saying that we couldn't. We don't have the technology to go back. That's why it was fake, and we never went to the moon.
I know which box he's talking about. I think that's the Camaro one.
Yeah, the Camaro Perfect Fit. So
that thing's awesome looking.
It's really cool looking, and what I did there is I had designed an enclosure to fit the Camaro, and I realized that, what I could fit through the trunk, it actually goes in, you fold the back seats down, it slides in kind of sideways, and it goes way back, and you turn it, push back, and it tucks right in, fits perfect in the Camaro. We've used it in several other vehicles. It's a really cool looking box. And I don't know exactly what it is about it that makes it perform so well. And I really want to do like a head-to-head test. I want to put, I'll put like one of our Alpha or Relentless 12s in a vehicle, and I'll try our 1.75 and our 2.0, and I'll try the Camaro box, because the Camaro box is about 1.9, and just see if I'm actually getting a difference in output. Maybe it's just because it looks so cool that everybody's so optimistic about it.
That thing looks awesome.
It does. It absolutely, like my buddy Jacob.
I don't have a Camaro.
Well, I mean, like I've sold it to several people that don't have a Camaro. We put it in two different of the SS, the Chevy SS, not an SS Camaro, the SS model.
Yeah,
car.
Not Caprice, the fancy Impala.
Yeah, it's Corvette motor Impala, right? So yeah, and the ports really end actually further back. They just this I'm like pointing at the screen, like you guys can see what I'm pointing at. The vents are actually double the size of the port there, so it really is just kind of coupling with the subwoofer there. And I don't know if there's some kind of crazy magic happening there. I don't know if it kind of makes like maybe there's some kind of similarity to what happens in a JL-HO box where there's some kind of magic that happens there, but I've never really been a huge believer in the HO box because it's usually pretty easy to build something that outperforms that in that space that fits there. Sorry. Anyway, so
yeah, let's see.
but this enclosure here, it's an interesting box. This customer here, he's a super cool guy. And I guess he's got a Scar sub in this one.
Yeah, I
Oh,
guess
yeah.
it does not need to be in a Camaro. That thing is freaking cool, dude.
You know, this customer, he's a super cool guy, and he reshares like most of the posts that I make into like the I Just Want to Bang group and some of those, a couple of those other ones. And man, those guys get so.
I know that guy you talk about now. Me and him have
Oh,
talked
dude,
about how
he's
awesome
so
your
cool.
boxes are, bro. He trolls them boys so hard.
Dude, they get so mad. You're a dick rat. And I'm like, I'm like, dude, I fucking love you. Like, dude. He's, I'm like, why would you be so pissed off? Anyway, so back to you know, I was going to school. I went to this computer training academy place where, you know, they teach you all about you know, computer network engineering and building computers, because I was always a pretty good computer guy back in the day. Now I am not, but I was the computer dude, and I would work on people's computers and fix their problems and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, I could, you know, I'll go to school to do this. And my buddy Gary, his name is Gary Geishert, and Gary's this great dude, and he loved car audio and home audio. And I actually met him at a place called Guru Electronics in San Jose, and I was picking up some audio gear for like a little install I was doing for a friend of mine, and they were like, "Hey, Gary, that's the guy that builds those boxes, you know." And he was like, "Oh, I've been wanting to meet you, you know." And I built a couple boxes for him, and then he invited me to build more of them at his house. And then it turned into this thing that I was paying my way through all of my school and living, building, you know, 2 or 3 speaker boxes a week and doing an install here and there on the weekends. So, and then by the time I finished schooling, I took my, you know, Windows NT and my Novell certification, you know, things, and got my little AA degree in computer shit. I didn't want anything to do with being a computer technician at all. I had no interest. I didn't want it a bit. I went.
I changed my mind. I hate all of it.
I did. I hated it. I didn't want to be like the guy at my computer and they're all, hey, we opened that virus. Good luck fixing it. And it was like super, it was a super thankless job, it seemed to me. I like to be treated as a hero. I also like to be doing things that take dexterity. Nothing against computer guys. They're fucking heroes. And like I have this young man that used to work for me that's got his own computer business, and he's amazing and successful, and I admire the shit out of him. His name's Devin Woolery, and he has PC Gamers, and he builds all our computers and ships them to us here from Hawaii. So I love that kid. What's funny is he went to car audio training school.
And he ended up building.
And he ended up being the computer guy. So, So I went and I got a job as a service technician at a biotech company. I was fixing biotech instrumentation all over the world, and it was pretty cool. And I was like jumping on planes and flying all over the place and fixing stuff. And I was doing a little bit of car audio on the side. And I really loved it. And my job was cool, but after a little while, you know, that like, I'm going to go race motocross next weekend. And I've been training and working my ass off and working on my motorcycles. And, you know, and I got my stuff all set up and I'm ready to go. And then all of a sudden my boss is like, hey, did you see the email? And there's that broken instrument in Boston and you got to jump on a plane tonight. Sure. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And like all my buddies that are counting on me to be with them as part of the group, that's all. I'm like, sorry. And they're like, it's okay, bro. You know, and that got a little bit old and I was feeling a little.
It didn't feel okay.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It didn't. And, you know, and then I had an opportunity with, you know, Boss Wakeboard Towers. They're a wakeboard tower company in the late 90s. And the owner was this crazy dude named Rio. And,
it's not the Boss Audio.
It's not Boss Audio at all.
Audio that had a wakeboard division.
No, not at all. You know, when I worked at Boss Towers, and I would be telling people that I worked for Boss Towers, and I'd be like, no, it's nothing to do with Boss Audio. Okay. Which that company is one of the most profitable companies in the car audio industry.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
It really is. It's kind of crazy. It's like you gotta wonder.
Back then they were actually.
You ever known anybody that had anything to do with them at all? You know what I mean? Like
with the company themselves? No.
Back in the mid 90s, for a little while, they had a vehicle that they claimed was the loudest vehicle in the world. They called it the Boss Cannon, and it was Northern California. What's that?
Was that an armored truck?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think this is before that. That was more of a marketing thing. But no, this was like mid 90s. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was
Boss was
never
one
a
of the
quality
brands
brand.
that was,
It was,
well, there was
No.
a small moment in time, I think, where they had some serious SPL shit. No?
I don't think so.
Maybe the magazine ads got me in the 90s. They made me think they were good.
Yeah, probably.
That was just Dan Current with Boss on his W7s.
Maybe him and his bazooka tubes.
So I
Boss Wakeboard Towers. That's where
I left. I left, the Bay Area. I moved to Sacramento with the Boss Towers guys, and I was there for about 7 months before I here's what's funny is this is the most delusional shit I've ever said in my life. I said, and I meant it, I'm gonna start my own business. That way I don't have to put up with anybody else's shit. No. You start a business, you have to put up with everybody else's shit. Dude, I have had vendors, like the guys that supply me things, like crying to me about their relationships ending with their wife. And I'm like, oh, yeah, dude, I feel, and I'm like, I can't tell this guy he's a little bitch. Like, if he was my homeboy, I'd be like, dude, you're a little bitch. What the fuck? Like, fuck that shit. No. Like, okay, buddy, we're going to have some fun. We're going to, let's go to the gym. Let's, what do you want to do that's fun? Let's go ride dirt bikes. Let's go race mojo cars or some, whatever the fuck, something other than, but this is like, I can't tell this vendor guy that I'm relying on my parts coming to me, and I'm like, geez, man, I'm really sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you should take up a really time-consuming hobby or something, or you're a little, you're kind of fat. Maybe you should go to the gym. Oh, don't say that shit. Like fucking. So anyway, and then and like, I love my employees. I have a great fucking team. But any of their shit, any of them have any shit, it's all on me. I get all of it. They're sick, or their baby's sick, or their wife is sick, or their car's broken down, or their mom's car's broken down, or their mom went out drinking, and so they had to drive her to go get her car the next morning, or their fucking wife is fucking being shitty to them, or all of it. I get fucking all of it all the time, and that's how it is to own a business. So if you're ever thinking about starting your own business and you're thinking, man, I'm done putting up with my boss's bullshit all the time, you're going to deal with everybody's bullshit, and it's going to be 10x what your boss dumps on you. If any of my guys ever were like, man, I'm putting up with Bobby's bullshit, you're getting a fraction of what you hand off on me, motherfucker. So anyway, but it's true. David Moreau's like, tell him how it really is. Dude, it is so, that is the so much, there's so much shit. It's fucking ridiculous. So anyway, so I moved up here, and
what's Allison saying Keiko? Is that has to do with
what is that, babe?
Is that the forum?
I have
Car
no
audio
idea.
Classifieds?
Slam Moonshine? Oh, am I dropping F-bombs like crazy or what? Is that what you're telling me? Am I Captain F-bomb? I'd had a lot of coffee. Extra weird. So
so you tell Wakeboard, you're out of here. I'm starting my own shit.
Yeah, I get my business license, and they were like, you can do it. They Rio believed in me. He's like, that's awesome. And then about what is this? Anyway, so Rio reached out to me about 3 months later. I'm like reading what people are posting and seeing if it's pertinent and I should address it. And no, I shouldn't. So Rio at Boss Towers reached out to me about 2 months after I left, and I just moved into my house. I quit my job kind of in a bit of a fit of rage the day I closed escrow on my house, because one of the other owners was really a weasel. Like, he's a weaselly little guy. And he's like, I was like not happy about something that I was fixing that somebody else had screwed up real bad. And I was trying to get that guy to come help me fix it, so he knew not to do that shit again. And he's like, you get paid to fix that. That's your job. And I was like, that's my job? Cool. Fuck you. I quit. And then I was like, wow, that was a relief. And I was like loading my tools up, and Rio was like, come on, dude, we'll give you $1 raise. Fuck you. He's like, 2. Well, no, like 3. Like, still leaving. Gotta go.
Yeah.
He's like, load it up. And then he called me up a while later. He's like, hey, we need a bunch of those acrylic speaker boxes, And I was like, okay. He's like, I want 100. Give me 100 of those boxes. Now, at that point, I'd probably built less than 20 total since I had started building them. And it had been about a year since I had built the first one.
And these were all to be used on boats and stuff? Like, what
Yes,
was the
they
deal
were
with 100 of them?
sealed boxes for kicker squares for L7s.
Okay. That's
And I
freaking
built
cool.
like 30 of them for 8s and 30 of them for 10s and 30 of them for 12s, just sealed, all acrylic boxes.
And acrylics just for weather purposes and stuff to be on a boat?
Yeah, they were totally waterproof in a boat. I had built a display for them that had a box floating in it with music playing. It was just sitting there floating. Like spill water into the cone. It's like flinging it out on people. And it was pretty interesting.
That's cool. That's cool.
But, and so that was pretty cool of them to do that, considering I was like,
And was that Gately Audio?
That started Gately Audio.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And that was when I started Gately Audio. It was 99. And so and then I was selling boxes a little bit on eBay. And then this young man reached out to me. He was like, I'd really love to buy one of these from you because they're so cool, but I can't afford to do that. I'm a college student. His name was Sean McLaughlin. And every once in a while I see him online somewhere and I'll be like, hey, and because he was like, you need to be on these forums. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, you need to be on Term Pro and Sound Domain. And there was like a whole bunch of other ones before even Steve Mead's forum. Mm-hmm. And I jumped on there and I was selling custom boxes for people. And I was building a lot of single 12 ported acrylic boxes. The acrylic was not very expensive then, and I had no overhead. I was in my garage, so I was charging like $500 for a box that I would charge like $3,000 for now, because the material cost is obviously 5 times as much as it was then, and I have a shitload of overhead, and my quality level from then to now is better. I was on MySpace, Allie, but I didn't really sell much car audio there, and that's not what I was doing on MySpace. Sorry, babe. Don't want to talk about my MySpace time with my wife. No. So I was searching for you, Allison. That's what I was doing on MySpace. But so I was on the forums pretty heavy, and there was a guy named Cedric Thomas. He was Seed 19. Some of the guys from the forums back in the day, he was a moderator on several of them. He's this brilliant dude. I think he was in Alabama. He's a super cool guy, and I did a bunch of stuff with him. And so yeah, it's my fault that acrylic is so expensive. RTD design. So
that's the dude who built that 286 order I posted photos of.
Yeah, that thing looks great. That's nice work. So, but Cedric was great, but I eventually I couldn't handle the people on the forums. It was I was younger, and I didn't know how to take the hater stuff and just run with it, and I got like really mad. I was a bit more anxious and prepared to be violent person 20 years ago. So I'd be like looking up where people at, their IP address, be like, this Oklahoma.
Really?
I'll drive 2 hours to knock on a motherfucker's door, but it was always somebody that was 3 hours or 1,000 miles away from me. It was nobody ever that I'd see in person that was like,
just talking shit on your threads or something, or what? Like,
what
were they doing that?
Oh no, I mean the forums were more toxic than Facebook. There just was less.
Maybe I didn't see. I mean, I was on.
Well, you weren't posting a thing. Like talk to John Nolte. John Nolte, for all of us, John Nolte engineered some of the most wild and amazingly performing enclosure designs. Like I've seen like all of them and experienced all of them firsthand. His snail shells and his double shots and these labyrinths and the centerfold, these designs that John makes, they're fucking outstanding. They sound beautiful, and they have a shitload of output, like huge gain, low power. He was taking 5.25 and 6.5-inch mids and using them as subwoofers and playing down into the 20s with authority and blowing my mind, you know, and people's response to that shit on the forums would be like, that's bullshit. And Gately must be retarded because, and it was like, you know, anyway, and some of it was like absolute nonsense. I was like going, dude, I can't believe these 2 5.25s are playing this low. And he was playing the beginning of the Korn song Blind. And I know the initial bass drop is like 37 or 38 hertz. But it was 2 5.25s in a box that was this big. And it's like flapping the roof on his Scirocco. And I'm like, yeah, like it's 2 5.25-inch mid. They were audio bond fucking mids with like a
which box was this? Because
I know
the
a double
Labyrinth one
shot.
you're talking about, and that thing's humongous.
What's that?
Labyrinth, like,
the Labyrinth ones, yeah. No, massive. He had a 2.8, and he's done recently, like in the last year, he's done a 2.8 and a 212 Labyrinth with my Gately subs, and he had the 2.8s in his truck, in his expedition. And he had pulled up outside, and we heard him coming for like a long way, right? And there was a dude from the tattoo shop, a customer of the tattoo shop, standing outside smoking a cigarette. And he pulls up, and John hops out, and the guy was like, "Damn, man, what you got in there?" He's like, 2.8s, and the guy's like, "What?" And I'm standing there looking, and I'm just smiling, and I'm like, "Dude, this guy's about to get his mind." He just walks over, he like drops his cigarette, steps on it. He's like, "Can I?" He's looking. He's like, "It really is 2.8s." John turns it on for him. He's like, "That's louder than my 15s." I'm like, I mean, it's cheating. The box is like 7.5 cubic feet, like size wise, right? So, I mean, you're using this massive mechanical amplifier, but the magic is John knows how to make that shit happen in there. It's fucking unreal. But I mean, you two believe me. Probably half the people in here are like, yeah, he's full of shit.
I saw the video. I saw the recent video when he did the 2.8s that you're talking about in the expedition. And the panels were just going all over the place.
Yeah.
So hopefully
and we got a video from 21 years ago. He's in my, we're at the bottom of my driveway. It's like freezing cold outside. Me and one of my roommates and another friend of mine are out there, listening to one of these things. So it was really cool. So anyway,
21 years ago, they had video
that was the
cameras back
minivan,
then?
I think.
What's that?
They had video cameras that long ago?
I mean, shit, man. For my first, like some of those pictures that you see that I sent you guys earlier today were
taken with a film camera, 100%.
No, they were taken with a digital camera, and it was a piece of shit compared to what my cell phone was 10 years ago. This is 20 years ago. I think I paid $800 for that digital camera. And $800 22 years ago was,
you remember,
like $2,500 now. What's that?
It'd have 2 megapixels when the camera you bought, and you'd be like, dude, this thing has 2 megapixels, bro.
I don't even think it was 1. I don't think it was fucking 1. I think it was like 0.9, and I was like, I bought the best one I could buy. And I was like, I'm putting these things on eBay, and it was like, people were like, dude, that's a great picture. I carry it around with me, and I pull it out, and people are like, oh, you're a baller. It's so, but
it's like those flip cameras.
So I couldn't deal with the people on the forums. I mean, I should have. It would have been better, but I was really frustrated with it, and I started just working with more local customers that I could see in front of my face. Because what's crazy is people don't talk shit like a little bitch when they're right in front of your face. They just don't do that shit. So I was working on doing installs like in my driveway a bit, and then I got this shop space where I am here now. This is my office here now that we acquired about 1.5 years ago. This is across the parking lot in the building, but my install bay across the way. And I started doing installs there, and I was still building some acrylic boxes. And we did a few pretty big batches for Guru Electronics down in San Jose, and we had a dealer in San Francisco. Gosh, what was his name? But anyway, but for the most part, we were doing custom installs, and my main dude, Colt Dunkley, Colt 45 on Instagram and stuff. He was a 17-year-old goofy kid, came walking in the door and showed me his like custom install work, and he had done some fiberglass and done some stuff, and his car pounded pretty good. And he was, and I was like, you know, you have a job? He's like, no. And I'm like, you want to help out around here? And here we are 20 freaking years later, and he's my right arm, you know? So
wow, I didn't know he's been with you that long. Holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, like we had a few times when he wasn't, you know, he had other jobs and we got in fights about nonsense and I mean, I was a little, I wasn't the best boss ever a long time ago. Now I think sometimes I am. I think I'm pretty fucking awesome with my employees now. But I know that in the past, Colt endured some pretty rough moments from me, but we got past that shit. I'm so glad.
That's just what you do with growing as a person and a boss. I mean, no one's born knowing how to lead a company or do it or you know, do what you do.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I will say, and some of these guys, you know, a few of these guys are we are definitely going to have John Nolte on as a guest at some point. Another one that I plan to have in the future is John Raby, but we'll get to those two guys in a little more detail because they're very, very important parts of my storyline here. But somebody asked about John being a guest. So anyway, so being, you know, a business owner, one of the biggest mistakes I made was trying to get every customer to be a customer. You know, I didn't want them to walk. You know, and when I lay out a price for somebody, you know, and I'd be like, this is what it's going to cost to do your build. This is this, that is that. This is the equipment we're going to use. And they'd be like, hey man, you know, these guys will do this. And I would like match people's pricing, or they'd be like, you know, oh, I know so-and-so, can I get a deal? And I'd be like, oh yeah, I can give you a deal, you know? And I would, you know, or people would, you know, go, hey, people would, you know, go, okay, you know, you laid it all out and it's going to be, you know, 4,500. What can you do with $5,000? And I would like make this massive jump. Like they only wanted me to like, you know, have a good idea to add something really cool to it. They wanted to help me out, you know, and because they were a fan of what I was doing. And sometimes I would decide to do some extraordinary shit that the extra $500 didn't warrant. It was too much. And then, you know, we would be
yourself in the foot sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, and so what I really learned is that these people come to, you know, especially a person that comes in the door here, they have no idea what my time and my knowledge and what Colt's time and knowledge and my wife's and Brett and Tyson and Anthony and Gavin and my whole team, all of these guys have this, you know, their special specific set of skills that they focus on and what we've developed for this most efficiency. And a customer comes in the door and I go, we're going to build all of this for you. And it's going to, you know, we're going to be, you got, you know, $4,500 in equipment, and I think it's going to be 15 to 20 hours. And you're looking at, you know, just right around 10,000 plus or minus a little bit based on how much time we have to spend working on. And if they say some really wild ass shit, like, geez, I really thought that something like that should be like 7,000. Like,
nope.
Well, what's your, you know, knowledge of what things are supposed to cost? Like, that's my fucking job. You know, it's like, it's not how it works. So don't let the guy that comes in the door tell you, like, oh, you know what? I get so many guys, not all of them are bad. Some of them are great. Some of them like, dude, I worked as an installer when I was in high school. I worked at Circuit City for like 5 years, and you know, and now I do this. And some of them are like really cool, and they're just like, what is it going to cost me to do all this? And I'm like, here's your number. And they're like, fucking cool. Let's do it. And some of them are like, you know, in my experience, you know, because I used to be an installer that, you know, we would do this. And I'd be like, this ain't Circuit City. And it's been 20 years. So I don't
things are
tell
a little
you,
different now.
you know, and once people throw a couple red flags at me, I'll just tell them no. You know, if they sound like they're being a little difficult before they've given you any money, once they give you money, they're going to be a fucking problem. And it's just, you know, and sometimes those same guys are great somewhere else, and that's fine. You know, everybody's got a specific type of person that they get along with. Some people, they come in and they need a set number, and I can go, yeah, you know, like the guys that have Ford and Chevy and Dodge trucks. We've done dozens of these things, so I can go, most of these trucks like yours, you know, with this box and these subs and this amp, and you end up somewhere between like 4,500 and 5,500, you know, depending on which version your truck is and, you know, how it wires up, what materials we need to use. You have 2 batteries. Do we have to put an alternator? Any of this stuff, right? Some of those guys are like, what I need like a solid number that what you're going to charge me. And I'll go, okay, 5,500. I'm like,
They're like, what?
Yeah. And they're like, well, you said it'd be like between 4,500 and 5,500. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, okay, so 5,500. If you need me to give you a set number, I'm going to put it all the way to the highest side. And if it goes a little over, then I kind of screwed myself a little bit. If it goes way under, then whatever. But I'll probably be more efficient because I don't have to hyper track the materials and the time. That's kind of one of the things. It's a little bit of a bummer sometimes when you track by the hour work, right? And I charge an hourly rate of shop time, not technician time. If I got 3 guys on the project, it's still 185 an hour. If it's 2 guys or if it's 1 guy, it's 185 an hour. If it's a one-man job, it's a one-man job. If 2 guys can efficiently work on it or 3 guys can efficiently work on it, then that's the team, right? So anyway, but what I was, you know, like hyper explaining is that the biggest mistake that people make often is letting the potential customer tell you what they want to pay for the services that you got. Now, if somebody says, I got a budget of about 2,500, and you go, okay, and you figure out about 2,500, and you go, this is about 2,500 right here. This is what we can do for you with that budget. That's great. Totally in for that. I'm down. But don't have me map out a $5,800 bill and then you tell me that it should be 2,500. I'm gonna be offended, and I'm gonna probably tell you that I'm not interested in your product and your project, and that you got to go.
Yep.
You know, I like, you didn't come to me to tell me what to do. If you know so well what to do, you'd be happy to do it yourself. If you know, a lot of times I get guys that are very capable builder installers that come to me. Guys that do a lot of fabrication work and they go, I want something that I don't have the skills and tools to do on my own. And I never will. So I want a build from you. And I know that there's a few other high-end shops that get this from people. You know, I'm sure MTI gets it all the time. Like brilliant engineer guys that make great money that could do a great job building their truck. But they go, no, I want these guys that have these skills and all these tooling and a team and a products that then they know how to make all of this stuff work together perfectly. So I want these guys to do it, you know?
Yeah. It's like there's an ass for every seat. I mean, there's always a customer for every level of business. There's always going to be a flea market guy, and there's always going to be the guy pulling in a Bugatti or whatever.
And you just got to know how to say no to the flea market guy if that's not who you want to serve.
And you know what? Sometimes those flea market guys can be great customers too. They're a little more limited budget. They show up and they're like, I got this funky CT Sounds or Scar fucking nonsense woofer that they got at a cheap ass price. And they're like, I want a badass box. I'm like, hey, you know what? You get bonus points for knowing what the important piece is. And if your budget was limited and you skimped on the box, like if you took a ZV5, ZV6 and you stuck it in a shit box, if the box doesn't rip itself to pieces with that woofer in it, you're lucky enough for it to work. It's not even going to compare to a Scar or something that's in a solid, properly built box. But if you put them both in the awesome box, you're going to hear that difference that you had in that 3 times the price. It's going to be really obvious. So when somebody comes in and they're like, I'm on a limited budget, but I know that the box is the most important piece. And, you know, work out something like, well, I don't have to ship it. So that saves me 40 or 50 bucks. I get you, and we get them set up and we figure out which box is appropriate for them. And if they're happy to wait, sometimes we're lucky enough, a week or so later, here's your production box at a reasonable price. And those guys are super duper happy. So it still works with some of the guys that are on a more limited budget. And I get it. Like, I get why people buy some of the cheap products. I love it when they're smart enough to buy a high-end enclosure to go with their stuff, because, you know, it makes my product look really good when somebody goes, why does my shit sub sound terrible in this box, but it's amazing in that box? It's like, oh, well, it's that makes it awesome. And then be like, oh, what would it do with one of those subwoofers? And it'd be like, oh, it'd do even better. So, so, you know, as time went on and installs were rough, and I was making like really terrible decisions. I wasn't charging enough money for my work. I was working night and day and long, crazy hours and burning myself out because I just didn't want to lose the jobs. I felt like they were too few and far between. And every once in a while, I'd get to a point where I wouldn't be making enough money on a project, and I would compromise my integrity a little bit and like let things go that were like pretty good. Now, there was never anything wrong with them, but they just could have been a lot better had we done a redo, or just, you know what, let's build that box again. Let's cut that box out. Let's throw it away. Let's build a new one. Let's pull the upholstery off that little fiberglass panel, fix that funny lump and shape that other part right there and reupholster it. Let's just take that extra time to make that just right. And that,
that's the difference of the fact that you're now willing to do that makes the difference.
We do it a lot.
You have to charge for it. But
I don't charge for the redo, but I charge enough for the front end that if I decide to hack that whole ass box out of there, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you charge appropriately for your shop's labor to where if you do need to go back on it, you can go back. It's just, you're not going to lose money doing it because
I won't be in the red, which nobody wants to be in the red. You know what I mean? You know, here's it's a little like it's kind of like a little bit of a cringe, but the Raiden truck, the 1212 box, Colt came in and said, you need to cut that box out of there and we need to build a new one that's easier to service, because I didn't realize that those B2 4500s were making, you know, 5,500 plus watts of power. And I was leaning on my Relentless 12s and I started damaging woofers in that box out at the Sky High Barbecue. And so, you know, we're doing some recones, we're making some changes to the woofers to make them take 5K. Like, I mean, we got to make some changes. And Colt explained to me, he's like, this thing's going to go back to New York, right? And whoever has to service anything, if it ever needs to be serviced and have to get woofers out of here, I mean, you built it so that it is serviceable. It's just not easily serviceable. Anybody has to get one woofer out of this box, they're going to be cursing us. They're going to be pissed off. They might do a shitty job, cause this box to leak or break things, or break baskets or any of these things that could occur because these guys are struggling and frustrated and they don't know what to do. So yeah, lock up over there, please. So
the box in the Raiden trucks, it's different. It's not what you had in there.
We cut that box out of there. One of my technicians was just closing up the shop. He was staying a little bit late. They're building the new version of it. It's almost identical volume and port, everything about it, except all the subs are facing up. The seal chamber is on the top, and it has two huge 1.25 inch thick acrylic panels on the top of it. Each one is removable. Any single sub you need comes out with one panel, and the sub comes right out. So, and that was Colt came in and sat down, and he had this look in his face like, you're not going to like what I'm going to say. And he's like, you need to do this. And I was like, oh, okay. And,
because I mean, at barbecue, when you guys were blowing a sub or two and you had gotten in there to fix things, it didn't look like Colt was having a good time.
Well, it was a billion degrees outside, and those subs were blazing hot, and him and Tyson are like, and I was like, you guys are not doing this the way it was designed to be done.
Okay.
And they were like, but we
They were
can do it right here.
laying down in it. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
well, they were taking 2 of them out from the back of the box. It wasn't designed to service subwoofers from the back. That's an aesthetic panel. It was you pull some amps and you pull a top panel. But you know, it takes 5 minutes to pull each amp, and you got to pull 4 amps to do the back panel, or you got to do 8 amps to do the front panel. But we, you know, and
shit.
pull the amps, and you pull all the screws to the panel, come off, and then it's pretty easy to get to the subs. But it's an hour and a half minimum turnaround to do that for Colt and Tyson. And these are my install technicians. Somebody that isn't familiar with it, especially if somebody that's like grumpy about dealing with this, is not, they wouldn't be okay. It just wouldn't. And Colt was right. I got really hung up on that aesthetic of that stacked baffle assembly. I couldn't get my mind off of that. I wanted it to look like that. And when I designed that way, and I was like, this is what I wanted to do, you know? And I mean, the new box, really, it's just as beautiful. I think it might, some people are going to probably like it even more because the way you see all the motors hanging down. And when you look at it from the top, it's just, you know, acrylic and carbon fiber cones everywhere. It's like super sexy, and it's a lot easier to service. And it might even perform better because the way everybody's kind of bunched together more, and the box is a lot shorter, and the amplifiers are all behind the box. So,
and the subs, they're all on the same plane too. So that usually,
that might
tends
make
to be slightly louder.
We'll see. I don't think it needs to be any louder. We were really concerned it was ripping the floor. So we pulled the whole interior back out of it. We laminated 1-inch plywood across the whole floor, filled a bunch of stuff with fiberglass reinforced body filler. We're adding some steel bracing to go from the C-pillars to the plywood reinforced roof. And we're putting a big, beautiful acrylic and plywood brace to go from right behind the center console up to the roof. I'm not really trying to have that thing start ripping the floor of that very new F-250. I want it to be like real loud, but I don't want it to damage itself.
Right.
Tear it up, it'll be all right.
So, but yeah, so you know, I was really not interested in the online world of car audio. And when Steve made his forum, I had already kind of not been involved much. And I got on Steve's forum a little bit, but man, I saw some of the toxic energy that people had. I didn't really experience much of it myself, but I just knew, I felt that I wasn't in the right mind state to deal with that kind of shit very well. And you know, when I had a job for a little while, I worked at a fiberglass plant for a couple of years. And when the economy took a crap and I wanted to refinance my house, I had to get a job. And because they didn't do stated income loans on your house anymore. Right. And I my buddy helped me out and gave me a job, and they're like, we just want you to help out like 1 day a week. It'll be kind of cool. And then they were like, can you help out 2 days a week? This is really going really good when you're helping out. I was like, oh, and they're like, we really want you here full time. And then they offered me like a shitload of money. I was making really good money at the fiberglass plant. And they were letting me work on whatever the heck I wanted. It was like, dude, we want you to do this. This will be your kind of main function, but I built a website. I was the photographer. I was learning Photoshop. I was traveling with the owners. I was having a really good time. And I might have been a little bit too excited about it. And I think they felt like I was taking advantage, and I didn't mean to be, but I was running around in that business as though I was one of the main dudes, and like the way I do it at my own business. And on the front end of things, that was great for them. But after about a year, it kind of turned into this like, what are you really doing around here? I was like, well, I did all of this. They were like, we know, but what are you doing now? It's like, It was a lot of like, what have you done for me lately? Shit. I was like, okay, and then they were like, let's get you some more training. And they had me do all this training and mold building and composites, injection molded and vacuum, stuff, and carbon fiber training stuff. And it was like, that was really fun. I got all this cool training. I learned a whole bunch of stuff. And then, back to it. And over time, I started to miss the freedom that having my own business had. And eventually it was a winter and they were like, let's lay you off for the winter. You collect unemployment. You can play RC cars all winter and do car audio. And when it came back springtime and they're like, you want to come back? And I was like, no, I don't. I fucking love you guys and I appreciate everything, but I'm gonna stay doing what I'm doing here, you know? So, and then I was doing a little bit of stuff on Facebook. Any big custom build I did, I would put on Facebook. But then I had my friend Lucas Espinoza, who's a pro MMA fighter, and he's a jiu-jitsu instructor and MMA fight instructor guy. And he was getting ready for his first pro fight, and he was training with me at the Jiu-Jitsu Academy. And he was like, you know, he was kind of struggling. He was a little broke, and I took him out to dinner, and he was hanging out a bunch. Then he explained, you know, he's having some trouble with some roommates in the house he was living in. They were using fucking dope. They were on meth, and it was he's trying to rest. He's trying to train his ass off. He's trying to be a pro fighter. I'm like, that's not a very good environment. I'm like, so let's, you know, we moved him in for his fight camp. This is going to be like 7 weeks that he was going to live with us. And I was like, and then we'll figure out, you stay after and we'll figure out, you know, help you get a new place. But in the meantime, let's have you focus on this, on your first pro fight. Let's get you somewhere, you know? And so he'd come to the shop with me and help me clean the shop and sand parts and shit for me. And he's looking as I'm finishing up this like acrylic and wood build with mirrors and lights and all the stuff that I was putting in this guy's car. And he's like, you need to be putting this shit on Instagram. And I'm all, I don't know, man, I got Facebook. And he's like, that's for old people. And I'm like, and he's like, dude, you need to be on Instagram. You need to be posting stuff. And I was like, dude, I got on Instagram. It's just a bunch of pictures. He's like, that's the thing. There's a lot less drama on Instagram because you just post the pictures and you don't have to like follow. And if somebody says something stupid, you can just block them. And it's, you know, there's way less. And so I started posting pictures and phone started ringing. I saw this picture you posted the other day. And I was like, oh, wow, that's like working right away. And he's like, told you. And so then, you know, Allison and I got all the old pictures off of my old version of the website. And those are the ones that I was telling you guys to look at earlier. And we went through and we put all those like once every day. I'd put a new picture. And then I started having more and more content. And that's, you know, and I was doing pretty well. This is very old. This is probably 2000 or 2001.
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah. And I built that for a customer that he bought another acrylic box from me like 5 years ago too. Super cool guy. I wish I could think of his name right now, but he's been a big fan of what we do. I actually built a couple boxes for him back then. And that subwoofer is an audio bond sub. And I know I say audio bond and some people kind of cringe because they made some pretty crappy shit, but they also made they made a small group of really badass products. And this thing had like a 6-inch voice coil and quite a bit of excursion. And it was designed to work in a small sealed box and perform really well. And that thing was pretty badass. We hooked it up in the back of my girlfriend at the time's car with a Crossfire CFA 1000 on it. Yeah. And that was the loudest probably sealed single 12 I'd ever heard in that. Well, thing, right?
Is this not a fourth order? It's a fourth order, right?
No, that's a sealed downfire. That bottom panel screws on and that is wide open right there. And the opposite side closest to my ripped abs that I probably had back then is wide open. Okay. So, but yeah, anyway.
Pull that shirt off real quick. What's up?
I don't think there's any on. Actually, there's the one when I'm fat and I'm drunk that has my shirt off. Where it's a video and I'm talking about how much I have to pee when I drink Bud Light. But that's probably the only one with my shirt off.
Fair assessment, though.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and then you know, a couple years of doing custom builds. I did a cutlass for a couple of friends of mine, cutlasses, and then I did a job for a guy. The story of this is this must have been 2019, and this is on April Fool's Day. We posted this picture, but this box, the customer had come and pick up his like really beautiful custom box for 2 Nightshade 12s, and this box was literally falling apart. It was broken. The plywood was ripping itself to pieces. The port was loose. The cutouts weren't. I mean, they look a little better circles than what they were really in person. It was the screws are ripping out of the. I'm sorry, not plywood. The MDF. It's like Home Depot MDF. It's like all spongy and soft, and the real funniness behind this is that the customer was like, "Oh, I'll come back and pick it up in the morning before we head down to back home to LA." He's living in Southern California area. And the next morning I showed up and it was still sitting there. And mid-afternoon I like hit him up and he's like, "Oh, sorry." And I was like, "Oh, I'll just throw it in the dumpster." He's like, "Yeah, thanks. Not really much I should do with that anyway." And Allison brought us inside, stuck the Gately placard on it, took some photos of it. And then on April Fool's, she posted, she's like, "You asked for it. Here's the cheap version of the Gately box." And, whatever. It was like pretty funny. My homeboy can do it. Cheaper series.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
pre-drilled to accept several different subwoofers.
Types and screws and 3 fastener points per subwoofer. Featuring meth hands finish and the funniest part about it is, and I can't remember who this builder guy is, but he must be like a previous meth head or something. He looks like it at least. So I mean, I hope he looks so much like a meth head that I hope he was a meth head, because if you look like that without doing meth, then man, that's fucked up. But so he was mad about it. Right. He had nothing to do with this thing, but he was like, "Oh, stay humble and remember where you came from." And I'm like, "Dude, I've never built anything that looked and performed that much like shit in my entire ass career. And, that might be where you came from, but I don't have to stay humble and remember where I came from. And it wasn't on fucking meth." So,
yeah.
I mean, I've built something that looked like that, but the world never saw it. I was like 15. It got thrown in a dumpster.
Right. I mean, I've thrown plenty of shit in a dumpster, and there's been plenty of things that kind of had certain similarities. But I mean, that picture really was the best light of that thing possible. That port was split and coming apart, and it was leaking from every fucking where, and the subs were ripping themselves out of it. It's not okay. And there was people commenting on it like, "Looks like it'll be fine." So there's the first acrylic amp backs that ever existed, because I just took the amp backs off and screwed them right to the box. But you can't.
I was wondering what I was looking at there. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's a mirror on the bottom of the box, so it looks like you see the amp. I'm putting up the screen again, like you guys can see
underneath
what I'm pointing at.
Yeah.
It's harder.
Yeah.
But
down here.
But yeah. And
what do you got there? What is that?
It's an Adair Brahma.
Okay.
Yeah, the first series of Brahma, that thing was a pretty atrocious failure, actually. They didn't have tinsel leads sewn to the spiders on that relatively monstrous, 1500 watt or so subwoofer. And so had it not been in an acrylic box, it would have been really hard to tell what was going on. But the tinsel leads were slapping all over the place, hitting the back of the cone. And there was big pieces of like the kind of foam insulation that's like glued to the bottom side of a carpet from the factory, and it was like glued to the back of the cone, this big ass square of it. And it was like, what in the fuck? Why is that? And then I was watching these tinsel leads flap around. I'm like, they knew it was going to do this.
Yeah.
and the customer, I'm like looking at it through the thing, and I'm like, look at that. I'm showing the customer, because he was like, why is it making that funny noise? He was worried there was something happening in my box.
Yeah.
And I, we figured out what it was. We had to drive a couple miles away from my house, out behind like a church empty field area late at night with like a flashlight looking at it, because I couldn't do that shit at 11 o'clock at night in front of my house. A single 12 with 1,000 watts on it in 2000 was a lot scarier for little old ladies in neighborhoods than it is now. Right. So, but, anyway, he called up this is the way back owners of Adair, long before Andrew.
Dan still ran it, I guess.
Dan
Wiggins.
Was it Dan Wiggins?
Well, that's the guy who owns the patent
started
on the XBL.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, They pretty much told my customer and their customer, like, pretty much to fuck himself. It was like they were pretty rude. And so I made a post in TermPro. And I was like, hey, I just so happen to have experience with these 4 high performance 12-inch subwoofers recently. I had the Rockford HX2. I had the Image Dynamics ID Max. I had the Brahma, and I had a DD 9512E.
Okay.
Right. And I really said that, the Rockford was pretty awesome, and it took a lot of abuse, and I was really impressed with it. And the Image Dynamics was pretty cool, but it was a little scary because it was a little too sensitive and it was easy to damage. And then the Adair was an absolute failure, and the tinsel leads were slapping all over the place, making a racket. And a bunch of people responded, that's what that noise I hear is. And they were like, dude, that's happening to me. And I'm like, invert your sub and watch it play, and watch your tinsel leads slap all over the place. And then I was like, and the DD was 10 times as good as any of these. It was above and beyond better by a long shot. And then Adair sent my customer a new subwoofer, and it had
with sewn tinsels.
It had sewn tinsel leads, and it still had the foam shit glued on the back of the cone,
On
though.
the cones.
Both sides, big pieces of. I'm like, what did that do to the FS of that sub? Anyway,
Yeah.
so nonetheless, that's my
fact about Dan Wiggins, the dude who owns that patent. He's the only person that Microsoft licenses a technology from.
He's an absolutely brilliant man. And I don't know that he had much to do with that moment or not.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I just know that he owns the patent on it. I think he was the one who originally came up with it, I suppose. But Microsoft was using it in their conference speakers because they needed small speakers. They needed high excursion, zero distortion because they needed output. And they tried to buy the patent and buy the company. He said no. So they're all right. Well, we'll figure something out. Long story short, they couldn't figure anything else out. They came back to him. They're like, all right, well, I guess we'll license it then. So,
hey, I got a question. Who the fuck is Daryl Brooks?
No. Well, no, I know the name. Let me go gander. I know the name.
Know.
I have a horrible memory. I can't remember nothing.
We're not here to hear
as
from us.
As soon as I see his face or our conversation. Okay, yeah. Yeah. See, as soon as I pulled up his face, that makes sense. It just
there was something he made a comment that was lame or something like that earlier, and then he's like, "Let's hear from these other guys." But I don't know. Maybe he's innocent.
Whatever.
He's all right.
Well, let's fast forward to some of your
more modern stuff.
Some of your more new stuff.
This is the latest version of Ray Pimley's door. So the original is we had a lighter stain on there that had kind of a clear coat in it that Ray and Josie picked out, and it looked really good. But over time, the clear coat part of the stain, these are doors, and they were getting beat up pretty bad. It got a little jacked up looking. So Ray came in one day, pulled the doors off the truck, and sanded that shit back. And that was not as easy as any of us thought it was going to be. But it, after, a solid day of aggressive sanding, I think at one point he had to go all the way back to 80 grit. It was first, he was trying with 240, and then it was no, it was 180. It was no, and then finally 80, and then all the way back up to 240. And then he applied the classic black stain, same as what we use on the enclosures now. And that's what his doors in the Jeep look like now. He got some new fasteners and shaped the doors slightly better to fit, because he now has a B-pillar in the truck. When it didn't have a B-pillar, that plastic wasn't there. Now the door panel was colliding with that and causing a problem. But thankfully the plywood's really forgiving, and you can shape it a little bit more and make it good as new. So
he's got a B-pillar build in there now?
No, he does not. He had a B-pillar build. He took the B-pillar out, and he actually put, when I said he put a B-pillar in, he put a B-pillar trim piece, I should say.
Okay.
So I built those for Ray. And what was awesome about Ray Pimley and that My wife's talking to me. Oh, okay. All right. So the other guy's super cool. My wife is like, that guy's cool.
Yeah, no,
You're good. You're good, Daryl. So he just isn't up to par with what we're talking about today. But I was like, what did he say earlier? I saw him say lame about something, and I was like, what the fuck? But anyway, anyway, Ray and I talked when I first met him, and I thought Ray Pimley, and I think Ray Pimley is a super great dude. He's young, he's super duper smart, and he works his fucking ass off. He builds all of his own shit. He works super hard. His truck is all the way legal in any of the competition stuff he did. He was getting accused of cheating, and he's like ripping his truck apart to show people not cheating, you know. And but he's a really good dude. And I met him, and he was like, you know, I'd seen him at a couple of my shows, and from one show to the next, I had seen he had made significant changes. It's only been a couple weeks, and middle of the show, he's like, I'm changing out these amps to compete in this class and those amps to do in that class. And then another time he shows up in a different car that has a, you know, a very work like on a lot build. And I was like, dude, I like this kid. And I was like, dude, I want to build some cool doors for you. And I offered to like do like a sponsorship deal with him when I first met him. And then, you know, it was about a year later, he came in and he was like, hey, I want you to build these doors for me, but I don't want you to give me a discount. I don't want a sponsorship deal. I want to pay the whole way, whatever I should normally pay. And I was like, well, you know, what I have in mind for you is going to be, you know, like $3,000. And he's like, that's fine. I just need to save a little more than I had about $2,000 ready. And whatever you say is the right price, we're good. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. Really cool. And I was like, well, we're going to do something, you know, really awesome here. Our first idea, as I was like, look, I had built, if you go back just I don't know if you'll see it there. First, I had done this like SQ build in a Mercedes. And when I was building the box, I had to like kind of shape the bottom corners of this box to fit into this, you know, lack of rear seat area of the back of the Mercedes. And I was using the grinder and I was shaping the plywood and I was exposing the laminate layers. And I was like, that looks cool. And I called, you know, Kyle Cook, who's over here watching with us. He used to work for us here at Gately Audio. He's a great technician, done lots of excellent wiring work and helped a lot sanding their doors right there. But Kyle and Chang came wandering over them. I'm like, doesn't this look cool? They're like, oh my God, it looks awesome. I'm like, man, I should build a truck box and shape it like this. And then I did the truck box a week or so later. And so I was showing Ray, I'm like, I want to make your doors have all these laminate layers exposed like this. I want to shape it. And I was like kind of mapping it out. And him and I talked about it a little bit. And all that's handmade.
Yeah.
You know, I built that on my router table in the back. And I made all the layers and they stacked them all up. And that trim piece around all the woofer, all the mids, with the grills attached to it, holds on with magnets. And I wasn't sure how well the magnets would hold it on when I was trying to go after it with a grinder. And I learned that magnet trick from Steve Mead about 18 years ago. And it was some cool shit. But I took the grinder to it and I started shaping it and it was looking pretty cool. And I didn't know how much everybody was going to like it. I was like, well, we'll probably just spray it with bed liner. Mm-hmm. And I'm working on it. And then and I had it like pretty well shaped and sanded with like some 80 grit. And let me tell you, that was a serious amount of work. It was over 100 degrees outside. And I'm in the back with a gigantic air compressor and like making a ton of heat. It's probably 115 degrees in the back of my shop. Kyle knows this for sure. Not lying. Easy get to 115 degrees in the back of the shop. And I'm grinding like crazy. And we sanded a little bit and I bring it over and I set it near the bay door and I'd blown it off and I'm like, this looks pretty cool. And I posted a picture like, hey guys, what do you think? And it was like, holy shit, that's amazing. And they're like, all these people are like going crazy. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's awesome. Like, I hope everybody likes it. And I went over and started working on the other side. And I'm like going back and forth between two to make sure that they're symmetrical. You got them sitting there, next to each other. And I shaped them and I sanded them to about 80 grit. And then Kyle and Chang helped me take them from 80 grit to like 240, 320. And then, and lots of hand, like a lot of parts needed to be exclusively hand sanded. So like, I remember Kyle's like got his big ass elbow and he's like, he's like, my hands are bleeding. And he's like, I'm like, all right. Yeah. I was like, maybe try your foot or something. I don't know. Or like glue a piece of sandpaper to the bottom of your shoe or something. But
I think this was probably the first time I ever saw the carved layers like this that you've kind of become known for. And
there was within a month of me building those, I had done a truck box and released some images of it, and I kind of ruined that box because I had I stained it this like beautiful purple color and it was really awesome, and then I was like, I'm going to put clear coat on this thing, and So here's a mistake that people make all the time with fiberglass resin is like, let's say you have your, big ass cup of fiberglass resin. You go, okay, I'm going to put my 3% mix that's going to make this catalyze. And then, they mix it up. And if you just sit there, that would harden, catalyze, and be hard as a rock. Everything would be great. But if you spread it really, really thin and it's on a piece of material and it can't get hot, it can't generate the heat that it needs to do to make that, thermoset reaction happen, then it's not going to harden and it's going to be a big sticky nightmare forever. So anyway, I made a big sticky ass purple box, even though it looked really beautiful. So then, a couple weeks later, I brought it out and I mixed a super hot batch of resin and I applied it and it was like the same results. And then finally, I put like 5 layers of Steve Mead Sunflash on it, and that's what got it to be hard. And then it like sat, in the back corner of my shop until Eddie from the cabinet shop took it and sanded it and shot some more clear coat on it to get it nice and smooth, and then put it in a friend of his truck. So anyway, but so we made the doors for Ray. And we kind of broke the internet with these things. There's people doing the normal shit, talking shit about how heavy they are. And Ray is like, let's take a look. Pulls them off, puts them on a scale. 36 pounds, loaded with speakers. Doesn't seem very heavy to me. He's like carrying around with one hand, puts it on there, puts the screws in. He's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but doesn't seem to be a problem. And, they saved his doors because they're so solid. It's just, there's no
super rigid.
It's super rigid. And so it made it like less damage to his doors. And then on that same weekend, I was like, hey, let's rebuild this loading wall. And that was when we made the Gately Shield shaped stacked port loading wall. And what was really cool is that he didn't gain at his peak, but he broadened it. So overall it was louder, and it had the same peak at like 4 frequencies in a row versus just one. And then it had way better low bass extension than it had previously. And so it was kind of cool that the changes that we made doing the doors and doing that loading wall were a significant improvement in sound and overall output. And me and Ray had a lot of fun working on things together, and Kyle and Chang and the guys helping out on that thing. It was a good time. So yeah.
So what would a set of those panels cost, like today, if some random walked off the street and said, hey, I want a set like that?
Now they'd be about $5,000.
Yeah,
man, they're nice.
That's like those doors installed. Yeah, we gotta put all the threaded rivet inserts in, and we gotta shape that thing just right and make sure that the door opens and closes like it's supposed to. I mean,
that's a bunch of work.
It is. It's a shitload of work. And I, aside from like, I don't know how Chubar does it. He's the fucking best, man. That guy is so amazing. And if I don't have the vehicle right in front of me, I'm like, I ain't doing it. I'm like, I don't know how the fuck he does it. He's amazing.
Who is that?
He's Chubar.
the Russian dude that ships doors to the United States. He did doors for Josh. I've seen 3 sets of doors that Chubar has done in person, and they are fucking perfect. They are beautiful.
Cheap.
And yeah, you know what? Hopefully they're not as cheap anymore. Him and I were talking a little bit. He was like, I don't know how to do my pricing. Our money is all fucked up right now. And I'm sure it had something to do with the Ukrainian war thing. And I was like, this is what I charge. Like I charge a lot. A set of doors starts at $5,000 here. And that's how it has to be. Oh, hey, speaking of these doors, the Ray Pimley doors, I think Rhonda built a really cool set of doors that resemble the doors that we did for Ray. I think she's one of the only.
Some wood doors, actually, like the other day. I was like, those got to be the ones he was talking about on the last stream.
Yeah. So Rhonda did a really good job. There's been a few guys that are like, I'm going to try to build. And I'm like, these are the tools you need. This is the grinder you need. This is what I use. Get a lot of batteries ready. Wear a face shield, have air blowing across you so the dust goes. And the guy's like, I'm going after it. And then he sent me his picture and he's like, I'm going to need a little more coordination with this grinder. I kind of ruined everything. I'm like, it took me quite a bit of practice to get that mapped out to operate that tool that way. Yeah. But Chubar's awesome. And him and I were communicating, he comments and he sends me messages and I ask him questions. I tell him, I'm like, dude, I learned so much from this 14-second video you posted watching how he applies the upholstery. And I'm like, that was fucking cool.
Dude, I need to, when this is over, you're gonna have to send me a link. Cause I don't know who you guys are talking about. I'm sure I've probably seen the doors, but
yeah, we're going to be seeing a whole bunch of Chubar doors on the shitting on them page on Insta for sure, huh?
Yeah, hold on one second. I'll go save a couple
bring
photos.
Bring up a really cool Chubar door, man.
Already working on it.
I've been studying that guy's work for a long time, like 5 years. I'm like, look at this shit this guy builds. It's fucking amazing, and his skill set's just gotten even better. And he's making
built them without the vehicle there. That's what.
Yeah, I'm like, how the fuck can he do that? I won't build them.
I had Tim at Audiotistics. Audiotistics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The first version of the Explorer, I had him build my doors, and he did it without the car too.
Well, if he had an Explorer,
never do it again.
Yeah,
well,
right.
He actually did. He did go buy doors from the yard. But he said
even
with the doors in the yard,
have the dash and the seat.
Yeah,
and
he's like, he still built it, but yeah, even when I got them, I did end up having to do a little modification to my seats because he didn't have anything to work. He was basically just working off some doors that were sitting there from the junkyard, and they still turned out super good. I mean, that guy does amazing.
Oh yeah, they look great. Those are awesome doors. Like these doors that we do for these Ford trucks. This is like the 5th set of them that I'm building, and I'm charging these customers like $8,000 to $10,000 for a set of 4 doors and a set of A-pillars. And these are their boxes on the doors. It's a stack fab assembly, boxes, acrylic, lights. Like it's a lot. It's going beyond what most anybody's doing on a set of doors. But if somebody was like, I want that on my Chevy, I'd go buy me a Chevy. I'd be like, send me your truck. I can't do it. I have my Ford here. And the first set of those I built for that big black Sky High truck that you guys saw at SEMA and the Showdown, Steve.
Yeah.
And the next set I built I was building for my truck, and the customer, the shorty in the 305, the girl Alexis with the blue and gray truck, she bought them before I was even done, and I shipped them rye doors. And then I'm building another set, and then I got another set to build for the Kyle Irving with the what's the rock?
Like the ones you
Black
built
Adam
for the
truck.
Bloodbath.
Yeah, the ones for the Bloodbath were very similar to the doors that I built for Amanda Raby's Suburban.
Okay.
Which, if you find those doors,
share that thing I got on my screen right now. That's just so I have a bunch of photos, but that's just one of the things you shared. Look at that fitment, dude.
That's nothing compared to what he normally does.
Oh,
that is a nice, simple little like kick pod thing.
Yeah. Get ready.
Yeah.
But
look at that shit.
Yeah.
Like that one looks good. Looks good.
That
Okay. Like that looks OEM. That looks
Yeah.
stock.
yeah.
Yeah, got the wood grain. Yeah, look how nice and tight his upholstery is.
I think those might be Brett Barber's doors. He's local to
Yeah,
me. He
look
had
at
a
those.
J-Cart build in there and Chubar doors. But man, Chubar is absolutely amazing. And you know, I was glad he reached out to me and was like, what should I be charging? And I was like, $5
More
grand.
than you are, bud.
And I'm like, charge more. I like your skills are way too good for these guys to be paying $1,500 and $1,800 for these doors. And I get it that, he's in another place where, even if he just doubled his price, they're still getting a super duper smoking deal because I mean, who can build like that? I mean, I might be some of my stuff is like kind of on that level, but it's different.
Yeah,
Right?
you're
And
not
then-
building like OEM stuff,
Right.
like not that
Yeah.
you can't, but your stuff's more
Look at that shit. That
completely
is
custom.
so beautiful right there.
Yeah,
That is,
Yeah,
just,
that's
and he does the
insane.
upholstery work. I mean, that is super duper clean, right?
Yeah, look at that. God, that's so stock looking.
Let me see if he had sent me some photos of.
Maybe in
What
my
he-
daily I'll have to hit him up, but definitely not for the Explorer.
I think it was this one. I had been thinking about. I want to do some new doors in my Tahoe at some point, and I think I talked to him about it, but I ended up changing my mind on having him do it, and I'm gonna have Bobby build some doors for it. But because me and Bobby talked about it at some point.
One of my technicians, his name's Brett Kramer, and he said, "Fuck wrapping Ford doors." He was learning. He was like learning the process of doing it. And him and I are like working together, and I'm like sitting on the floor of the shop, and it's like 1 a.m. and we're like freezing to death. And like it was him and his girlfriend's anniversary, and he forgot, and she showed up at like midnight, and dropped off hamburgers for him. And I'm like fucking up this door panel wrap, and he's like, "Oh, it's we have to start over again." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Here, give it." He's like, "Oh, peeling it for me." Wrapping the next one. He's like, "Please don't fuck that one." I'm like, "Okay." But yeah, but now he wraps them. Him and Colt wrap them together, and he's getting really good at it. And we're a lot better at making the door panels in a way that they're more reasonable to wrap. You get to build the same thing 5 times over. Let's share some Bobby doors now here, Mr. Drew. How about some bloodbath doors?
So this is what I wanted
to
do in my Tahoe originally. I think I talked to you about it, like something like that.
Yeah,
because he maintains that.
Yeah,
like just the OEM switches.
Mm-hmm. You just relocate the position, make sure the wires are long enough to go there. If not, you got to extend them. And
then you told me about that secret with the Neo Pros, and I was like, oh, that's it. Need it in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. The Sky High speakers do that as well. I actually shared a picture recently. One of the doors in my truck, and they're like pink lights, makes the speaker light up really purple. That's doors I did for Johnny at Sky High, and I built those in 11 hours.
But that would take me 11 weeks, and I would still have to pay you to do it in the end.
And we went to a birthday party and got drunk and watched UFC fights, and then went back and worked. There's some bloodbath doors right there.
So you build those are in small enclosures.
Yeah,
correct?
that's a sealed box right there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's also one. That's a big thing.
Johnny's doors, the ones with the 5/8s, those are sealed boxes as well.
Yeah, I don't think what people realize when they see your like stuff like doors you've built or stuff like that, like they're not just panels on the metal; they are enclosures inside the door.
Yeah, and the fitment is retarded. I like how you started doing that with the what's that, rhino liner, but you're able to shape it. Just you got to see it in person. It's really cool.
Yeah, whenever I saw the Sky High GTR doors in person, I was blown away.
Yeah, those are probably everybody's favorite. That's all stack fabbed acrylic, and that was one thing that I had a concept, and I wasn't gonna know if it was gonna work until the shit was done. And it was like, it should be when the lights are off, it just looks black. And when the lights are on, it'll be green, crazy lit up, and you'll be able to read that Sky High logo. And I had this whole concept. And even all my guys were like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, it should do this. And
and they do.
And and it worked exactly as planned. Actually, if you see that kick panel, if you scroll up just a little bit, oh yeah, there's the Sky High door there. Yeah, that's with the lights on. There's a video.
It is.
There's a video where
when I saw it at SEMA last year. Oh my goodness!
So right here on the left, the blue right there.
This one?
Right there. Yep, that one. That is a Sky High 6.5 with a blue light behind it, and that kick panel is an enclosure. It's about 0.3, and it's got like a little port kind of facing up towards the dash. So just those kicks playing with those 6.5s, and that shit was pounded. We were like pretty stoked on that. And then that build had 5/8 behind the seat. My friend Chewy's C10, 69 C10 there. And that's the box behind it there. And we did something a little bit different on this. My friend Chewy, he actually is blind. He can't see. So instead of doing the resin pour on the back and machining my engraving from the backside, I wanted him to be able to feel that bow tie and that print. So I did
on the front.
So I did the resin pour on the front, sanded it and polished it, and then put it back on the CNC and did that engraving. So like you can run your hands across that and you can feel that bow tie and you can feel that shape there. And
that's cool.
Yeah,
that looks really, really nice.
And those are 5 of our Alpha 8s, and they're run by a TerraAmp Smart 3K at 0.8 ohms. And I don't know, man, like those TerraAmp amps sounded fucking really good. I'm like, I don't know, man. I was a little worried about these things being kind of crappy. We were trying to kind of fit into his budget with amplifiers a little bit, you know. It was the easy way to save a couple $1,000 using those TerraAmps. And
is this a wedge? It's not a cut through, right? Okay.
It is not a cut through. It's a wedge box, and it hammers, and it sounds really good. It
looks really good. It looks like it sounds good. I like the kick panels and everything. That's a cool.
Now I'm scrolling back through Bobby's Facebook, drooling over some of these acrylic enclosures. Man, I gotta get one. I don't know what I'd do with it though. I'd be too scared.
This Mustang right here, the red there is a Mustang. Oh, that's the box in the GTR with a couple of the B2 6.5s
in between the seats. This is the Mustang.
This is the Mustang. We didn't do this rear deck lid there. Another custom shop did this. So he wants us to do some more modifying to it, but he blew up the motor in this thing. So after he gets the motor rebuilt, he wants to bring it in and have us do kicks and a rear deck lid. But this trunk build here, I designed the box, and I cut all the parts and handed it off to Colt. Colt built that box, did all of that upholstery work, fabbed all of those panels in that thing. Man, that was before we were, CNC designing we were building boxes with the CNC, but we weren't using the CNC in general fabrication. It was kind of like, it was just, Colt in the back of the shop whittling plywood and Bondo until that shit fit and was perfect, So.
Yep.
Some of these pillars are making me very, very envious.
So there it is, like you were saying, it's black.
Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, this looks all black. I mean, and those 8-inch B2 mids, they also glow when you have lights behind them. So you see the cone kind of light up.
Dude.
Yeah.
I found a picture of Bobby with a 6-pack. It was an 8-pack. So
did you?
8-pack. Yeah.
Oh, that was like when I met my wife. I was that ripped. I got down to 150 pounds, 151 pounds in a gi, and I competed at Pan Am's. And the couple weeks before that is when I had kind of met Allison, and I was like awkwardly flirting with her in yoga classes. And I told her she had pretty feet and shit. I was like, don't tell, I've got pervert. God damn it. I'm like, and then I was at Pan Am's, and it was the day of my matches. And I get this text message from a number I've ever seen. She's like, good luck today. And I'm all, thanks. I lost your number. I got a new phone. I'm like, she's like, oh, it's Allison from yoga. And I was like, oh, wow. She like stalked me and found my number. That's cool. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, so anyway. Then we had lunch a few days later, and then we had our first date a few weeks later, and
Oh,
off we
Now,
went.
how
But
many
yeah,
years
but
later?
having an 8-pack and vascular definition running across your chest seems to work out pretty good with the hot blondes in the yoga class.
I wouldn't know.
I'm gonna have to figure that one out, I guess.
I've circled back to that a couple
I mean,
times.
I'm just gonna take your word on it.
You're gonna share the photo of me all ripped or what? What's going on?
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah.
Well, I want to see it, dude.
I'm not
I
that
tried
now.
finding
I'm all
it. I couldn't
hairy
find
and
it.
fat right now.
Bro, I'm like way back on his Facebook. Don't you worry about me. I know what I'm doing.
Oh, you're on
All right.
Facebook now.
Yeah. Switch on back to the door panel thing.
Bring up the cutlass.
I want that.
Yeah, that was engineered by Peter Kluge at Audio Dynamics.
Yeah,
And
I
let me
saw
tell
that.
you, that was designed. Like we told him. So this box was built.
I can see
remember
the porch
picture?
angled. You can tell that's
No,
a
it's
PWK
not.
box.
It's not actually angled. It's not.
Is
It's
it?
an optical illusion. It is.
There you go.
Hey, that's pretty ripped. I don't know. I got a little bit of meth head looking face right there though. To get down to that weight was a hell of a challenge, man. But I could do like handstand push-ups. I could do like 100 push-ups in a row. I was in like pretty incredible shape. Let's go back to that acrylic box for a second. So that picture of that box I was leaning on from 20 years ago, this box here went to that same gentleman, like 17, 18 years later. But this was designed to work in his workshop. This is a base reflex 6th order. So that folded port at the bottom ports into that large chamber, and then that ports out of the box. And
you know what this looks like?
What does it look like?
I have a little Bose speaker that's got like a 5.5-inch sub in it.
That is probably a base reflex 6 designed by Bose. Like so yeah. I told Pete this is going in a workshop that's like 40 by 80. And it has a 12-foot ceiling, and it's going to go on the top of a cabinet system, and it's going to be like 9 feet off the ground. He's like, okay, and he designed it. Now, we had it sitting there, and I was working on this kid's Toyota truck, right? And we weren't done with the box yet. It was a fiberglass box for a JL 10W3, and I wanted to make sure that the amp was working right, and I didn't have anything else that would, put a load on the amplifier. So we haul that thing over and we plop it on the seat of his truck and we hook it up and we fired it up and we were like, it's working. Kind of sounded like shit though. We were like, that is like, and I was like, God, I hope this thing has more output than that. This is like not awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it wasn't designed to be inside the cab of this truck. It was engineered to be in a big workshop like I have here. And so I took it out and I put it on the roof of his truck. And then it came to life. And it did exactly what Pete designed it would do. And it was pounding like crazy. It was just like I had like 212 sitting on the floor. You know what I mean? It was like, It was outstanding. And I was like, man. So the Peter Kluge at Audio Dynamics, he has his own engineered design software, and he does some really amazing stuff. And I'm not going to give him all the credit in the whole world. He's got to own some of his stuff because there was a few things that he built that he had designed that I built exactly as he designed. And because I'm Captain Test Everything, I also had like a regular ported box to compare it to. Some of the time, just the regular ported box performed better.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes simple. Well, I mean, simple is always the key in getting loud, at least.
But
that's always
a few of them were really
the weird stuff I saw from him always did amazing. Like that I'm sure that jam, like the weird stuff always did great. Yeah, but then like you get like a normal ported box and he wants to be super weird with it. You're like, why don't you just do a normal box?
Is he the dude on YouTube?
Hexy
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. The dude on YouTube. Yeah, that's him. I already know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he makes some cool shit. I like I watched one video a while ago, that 3D printed box that's stacked together, the red and black one.
He definitely churches up the lingo a lot in the videos.
Yeah, it's hard to follow sometimes for me.
Yeah, he's got a little bit. I'm so smart. I'm gonna try to make you feel dumb, and it's a little off-putting sometimes. But you have to appreciate his knowledge. He is absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
What is that?
That is I believe that's an MA audio, which was
Yeah,
closely
that
related
is.
to Audio
Yeah.
Bond. And it was a really beautiful sub that didn't perform worth a fuck like at all. It was pretty incredibly disappointing. I think we had that one and we had tried it in the what was recommended sealed box, and it was not. I was like, okay, this definitely doesn't go in a sealed box. And we put it in a box similar to that, 2 cubic foot ported, and it sounded okay. It just didn't compare to much anything that in 1,000 watt or so range. So it was kind of like meh. So
Yeah.
This was
Drew,
some
can you
crazy.
zoom in on that?
That's from my old clunky camera from back in the day. In the back of that's the bed of was now the Green Monster right there when it was my relatively new Harley Davidson edition 2001 F-150.
Man.
But so that enclosure, it's MTX 9512, 2 cubic feet ported box, and we made it have blue bonds. Now, the way that we did this, and I don't recommend doing this, is it took about 20 blue Sharpies, and I would Sharpie the edge, like me and my technicians would stand there and Sharpie the fucking edge of the whole piece of acrylic. And then I would mix a bunch of blue ink into the acrylic weld material. And if when we made the bond, we had a little too much saturation, it would wash out the blue and it would make little puddles of blue mess all over the inside of the box. And if I didn't get enough solvent in there, I wouldn't get a very strong bond. So what I realized is that this was a terrible idea. I built like a half a dozen of them that way, and I had one of them that had a failure because the bond separated because the Sharpie ink interfered with the weld. And I had one where I made a big ass mess of a red blotch in the corner that looked like shit. And it was kind of,
Why
ruined.
did you have to use a Sharpie if you were mixing the blue ink in there?
It wasn't
the purpose?
It wasn't dense enough. It didn't matter how much blue ink I put in, and it would ruin the chemical reaction. So don't do that. Now that is one of like 4 of them that were very successful, but I had pretty much a 30% plus failure rate on one way or another. So not recommended. So, yep.
Damn, guys, we put in over 2 hours already. Just
yeah, that's how it goes. Hey, that was built like exactly to the specifications of that driver from ground zero, and I had built a complete wood test box version of that exactly because I didn't believe that small of a box for a 15-inch driver would perform well. So I built it all out of high quality 3/4 inch MDF, just like that. And we tested it in that little Scion, and it was really impressive. It wasn't a ton of output, but it was really smooth, super flat, really punchy, and really good impact. It was a beautiful sounding box, 1,000 or so watts on it, and we loved it. And so I built it all out of acrylic for the customer. It's for a girl, and she's a show car person, and she absolutely loved that thing, and it was really cool. And then I sold the wood version of it for $500 to a guy just spontaneously because he was like, "Can you build one like that out of wood?" And like we were at my shop and I was like, "Yeah, I got one. It's right here." He was like, "Really? Why?" I was like, "Because I built a test box of this to make sure it sounded right." And he was like, "Cool." And I had one more of those same subs and I was like, "Here's the sub as this. I'll give you the box for $500." And I was like,
Perfect.
That worked out good.
Yeah, so, I mean, I figure for weird stuff like that, I figure you'd always build one out of wood first just because acrylic's so expensive.
I do frequently. This is all thermoformed. So I bent that with heat. I have like a heat strip thing that I bought years ago, like 23 years ago, and I would use a MAP gas torch, sometimes 2 of them at a time. Back in the day when we would be doing something really complicated, which you might find a picture of it. There's a picture of a box with 2 JLW7s. 13 W7s and has a JL Audio logo shaped port.
I did see that actually.
When we built that box, Colt and I showed up here at like 4:30 a.m. and we parked our cars around the corner and locked the shop up and locked ourselves inside so that we didn't ruin this, like $1,000 worth of acrylic material that we were working with. So if you see this enclosure, I bent some 1/2-inch acrylic to make the JL logo shaped port.
Do you see it, Drew?
Port.
Got it? Oh,
Wow, that's some old shit. It's like from MySpace.
Give me a second. It
Man,
takes
you
a
just
second
keep
to
coming
add
back to that one, Drew, huh?
Is that it?
No.
Oh.
It's the port assembly, and it's two 13W7s, bunch of mirrors and lights and shit. And it's got upholstered trim on it. So
is it an Escalade?
I think so, or a Yukon or something.
Is it on your Bobby Gately, or is it on Gately Audio?
I'm on his Facebook.
Oh, it may not be in the Facebook. I think it might be in the back of, you know what? I didn't see it. Damn, I don't know where the fuck that is. It's probably on Facebook though. It's probably there. Anyway, so we that box I built in 2000, and that box is still in that customer's truck, and he's still rocking it to this day.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So
there's a
all
few
this
of them
talk
like
about
that too.
Custom enclosures. Have you ever? I'm sure you've seen the spinning speaker boxes, right?
Yeah, where they're like tumbling kind of shit or whatever. Yeah, what about that?
The shop I worked at, one of the guys there built a dual tumbling, like a dual spinning enclosure that would play as it spun. It was some wild. Cool. It was some wild stuff. Let me see if I can. Let's see.
Some sidetrack shit, though,
I know. I just got to thinking about it. I mean, we're 2 hours in at this point.
Jason Stokes said, "If I ever played around with T-line enclosures, well, I'm not the best at explaining how a T-line works. I'm not an expert on them well enough to have enough working knowledge to explain that. Drew might have a little better explanation of it. But what I will say is that the advantage of a T-line box is that they're hyper efficient, and that really isn't my specialty. I don't build. I mean, I can, and I'm pretty good at it in certain applications. Build something that's very efficient, but a T-line in a car, you're going to have even like a single 8 T-line to actually have it perform the way I would care for a T-line to work would be a big ass box. It'd be as big as a single 15 box, a big single 15 box. It'd be a freaking monster.
They end up very large. I mean, and like I said, they're very efficient because there's no real. The only thing controlling the sub is really the sub.
The power, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, like the only thing maintaining control of the cone, besides suspension, is power. So the amplifier controlling it, because your vent, because it's not a port, your vent is the SD of the woofer normally. So it's however much effective cone area you have, that's how big your vent is. So you have no real quote back pressure. You just have the length of the vent is a quarter of the FS at sea level at the speed of sound. So it ends up being long, depending on how low the FS is. You could have a vent that is 48 inches long. So you're having to move a large mass of air back and forth.
And that works out great. You get a 250 watt sub. If you got a ton of space, you get this little bitty amp. You got 100 watts, 200 watts on it, and it sounds awesome, and it sounds beautiful, and they're accurate, and everything is great. But then you're like,
it's not loud.
Wow, or you're like, wow, it's amazing for 1.8, and you're like, okay, in that same space, you could get a 250 watt 12 and put it in a ported box, and it's going to be better. And it might not have the same sound quality, but cars don't usually sound that great unless
you are specifically
Jeff
making
or
it sound good.
Somebody builds it. But
then
so
they're going to do a sealed box anyway.
Right. And they're not going to be looking for output. And then, I get people that look at, my truck boxes and they'll be like, man, do you think, there's enough room for 4 of those to perform at their best? And I'm like, no.
No, that's why you need a 5K.
Yeah. So we're going to make them handle 1,500 watts a piece in there. Does the sub look efficient to you? It's like all motor, little itty bitty cone. You're like, no, this isn't efficiency. This is output. Like, You threw away efficiency a long time ago. You bought a $90,000 truck that gets fucking 9 miles to the gallon. You're not worried about efficiency. You're going to buy a $1,500 box. You're going to buy $1,600 worth of woofers. You're going to buy a $1,600 amplifier and a $1,100 battery. And you're going to pay somebody $2,000 to install this shit. And efficiency was gone a long ass time.
You quit caring about
ago.
efficiency you never actually cared.
Yeah. I mean, so somebody posted a picture of my 10 6.5 box that I had put in my truck. I'm going to do a new version of that really soon too. I figured as soon as that thing turned on, I knew exactly what could be done to make that perform significantly better. And that thing that did a 149.7 on the meter. And it was like, ooh, and it sounded really good, but I was like, damn, and I already know like 3 things to do to this to make it be louder.
Isn't that the most frustrating thing?
I turned it on and I went, oh, I know what I should have done there. Shit. And I'm like, I could have done that too, motherfucker. But so that enclosure was standing up. It was next to my truck, and it's like there's 10 carbon fiber 6.5s, right? And the guy's like 80.2 dB efficiency, blah blah. Like he was bad mouthing me because it's not efficient, and I'm like, yeah,
no one cares.
You're right.
10 6.5s.
Yeah. When I was demoing it and people were blown like, holy shit. And I'm like, I'm playing down to 30 really well. But as soon as I was like 30 or like 29, it was like, and I was like, ooh, I'm like, oh, don't go below the tune frequency. It had a little too much port, a little too long, a little too much port. It was like, oh boy. But But it was loud as a motherfucker. I mean, like playing music, people were like, dude, this is crazy. This is amazing. I mean, I'm cheating. I have a 3 3/4 seat lift in that truck. That same amount of space, I can put 6/8. Matter of fact, in the next couple of days, I'm going to be posting pictures of an all acrylic 6/8 box that were just finished today. Like they finished polishing it today. So they're going to clean it all up. We're going to stuff 6 of our Relentless 8s in it. It's going in a customer's truck next week. And I'll post pictures, but that fits my truck with this monster 3 3/4 seat lift in it. And I think it's going to be louder probably with 6/8s, but I'm going to do 10 6.5s again because I want to know for sure. I want to know what's really the loudest. Besides, 10 6.5s looks so fucking cool. I mean, it's so pretty to see that. But anyway, so every once in a while I see somebody with a T line, right? Jason Stokes. I see this guy. This guy was like trying to badmouth me. It was like, oh yeah, I sent him an email and they said they couldn't build a box for my sub. And it was like, do you make a box for this Rockford Fosgate 16-inch subwoofer? And I was like, no, we don't make anything specific. That was my answer.
Yeah.
And then he is on the internet bitching about it. He's like, but it's cool. I had so-and-so build me this T-line. And that T-line might have been 2.5 cubic feet of air internal volume if you didn't count. It was fucking tiny, and it barely fit this Rockford 16-inch sub. And I am like, it'll be a fucking miracle if that thing sounds like music at all at a glance. Yeah. But then I'm like, but I might be wrong. Because I've seen shit that look like garbage sound fucking great. And be like, I don't know what the fuck's on. But when I see these people with tiny T-lines, right? Ronnie Smith built this really bitchin' T-line for a single 4-inch sub. And it was like a fucking mini fridge. It was big as fuck. It was like a 4-inch thing. And Ronnie is absolutely brilliant. If you want to see, Jason, if you go to Ronnie Smith's YouTube, he has one where he explains exactly how to design and how a T-line works very eloquently and clearly, far better than I could ever explain it. And it's super extended knowledge, Jason. But you'll see that these boxes are massive. Yeah, it's like a 6.5 or like a little 4-inch that he does it for. He built a couple cool things. He was playing with his 3D printer and he made all these little corner pieces that went inside to keep that linear. It was really bitching. But
yes, Ronnie Mr. 6.5 Smith on YouTube.
Yes, there you go. Thank you, Drew.
Yeah, he does some really cool. He just does a bunch of cool testing and stuff. And
but that's how you get loud testing. That's what people who don't want to do these days are like. They just want to build something and be like, all right, I want to win my competition class at finals. I need to do it by the end of the week. Sorry, bud. You better do something. You better build a time machine.
When I was designing the first 6.5 box for my F-150, when I had just got it back in 2018, I was sending him messages, and I was like, "Hey, Basebox Pro and WinISD are telling me that this woofer doesn't exist," and he's like, "Yeah, they're not going to give any information for you at all. They think it's not real. They can't. It's like you're lying to me. These parameters aren't real." And I was like,
Yep.
"Are they lying to me?" I'm like, what the fuck? And I was like, man, they didn't give me real parameters. And this must be some manufacturing China thing and blah. And then it was like, no, that's not it. These are real parameters off of this woofer. It's just this software can't handle the fact that it has this much motor force and that much cone. It's like, no, like somebody when they're put red flag, can't be that. Nope, can't do it. And it's like, motherfucker, I'm holding this thing in my hand.
Yeah, like I know it exists. Yeah.
And then
WinISD will flag it for validation fail, and then TermLab will, if you're too efficient, the TermLab will throw a warning and quit clamping stuff, saying you can't be that loud on that amount of power. Try again.
Yeah, and so and I'm talking to Ronnie, and he's like, the biggest challenge is going to be port area. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, and then, and then I had a really good friend of mine. His name's Will Welcher. He's a local guy. He's a big, giant, buff dude. Looks like the Tick. He had that Mazda 6 with these like legendary different builds that he's had in this car, like inverted 24s with dual motors and doing all this crazy shit. Lots of loud stuff. And Will's amazing. He's like, dude, I try really hard to have my ports be 18 to like 24 inches long. If they're a little too long, things get weird. So if you could reduce the port area slightly to try to bring it down closer to 24, that's great. Or if you can make it port bigger so that you can make it 18 inches longer or make it a minimum of 18, that's better. Almost as a general rule of thumb. And I mean, and that obviously that's not like always the right thing for everything. And it gets really weird when we're talking about a little tiny 6.5 and even 8s, especially when we get down to like 1.8 or 1.6.5 is even weirder.
That's weird.
Because 1.6.5 needs almost as much port area as 2. And 3 needs like barely more. And 4 needs barely more. And 5 and when you get to 6, like that port it's barely double of what I need to not make port noise with 1.
That's
why?
Crazy.
I don't fucking know. I know it from testing because I designed this beautiful box, WinISD and Basebox Pro 6 for the 6.5-inch woofers. It looked fucking awesome. And I was like, cool. And I got these 2 3-inch ports and I got the subs and I built 6 of them thinking I was like, this is going to be bitching. And it was nothing but port noise. Like it didn't, like you couldn't hear tone of anything. It sounded like somebody knocking on a door. It was fucking awful. It was embarrassing and hysterical. And I mean, like modifying immediately and cutting and making. And that was how the Gately Shield shaped port came about on the truck boxes. Because I was like, I guess I have to make it shaped like a pill. And my buddy Eddie's like, what the fuck? He's like, no, you're going to make it shaped like this, stupid. I'm all, oh, okay. And then I went and I designed the parts and we made the stack. And anyway, so and then it was like, this is way bigger than what I thought this was going to need based on this software. And then I made it too big for a while, and then I made it a little smaller, and I kept on playing with lengths and really just several different iterations of that port. And that's where some of the magic is. It's not awesome because it's shaped like a Gately Shield, but what's awesome that it's shaped like a Gately Shield, I can fine tune that port area perfectly and still have the same kind of effect as it being an aero port, where, when everybody talks about, with an aero port, you can get away with it being a little smaller than a slot port or even a little bigger for that matter, because no. You will force yourself to get away with it because you don't have a choice, because you can't buy a fucking PVC tube that's 5 3/4 of an inch. You know what I mean? It's like, if it just so happened that a round port was the perfect amount of port area for a specific sub, I don't believe that all I don't believe that all 12-inch subs are perfect with 27 inches of port area. Not everything needs a 6-inch fucking port, you know?
Now,
So
that issue you'd have with the 6.5s, is it just with 6.5s?
no,
or it's just all.
It's more drastic. It's not exactly an issue. It's kind of. I'm thankful that it exists because I'm able to squeeze a bunch of these suckers into this area and get this port and have it sound awesome and pressurize and not make port noise and not let these little tiny subs unload. I can keep some control in there. But it happens a little bit with the 8s, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like coupling is the term that I use, and I've Joe Fox from Fox Acoustics kind of broke this down to me a lot better, and he kind of confirmed it more because he had read a study about JBL changing a bunch of their cabinets. When they would put multiple drivers in a cabinet, they didn't just make the cabinet bigger. For every time they doubled the amount of sub drivers in the cabinet, they would reduce the ports and the volumes by 10% overall, because coupling was happening and they were gaining efficiency by sharing the chambers and the ports. So they can reduce the size of everything and have the same amount of output. Or if you on the other end of that, if you were squeezing, if you had plenty of room to work with, you could gain more efficiency and broaden your bandwidth and lower how much power you need to feed to them to get the same amount of output, smooth things out. So, I wouldn't put a single 8 in 0.5 cubic feet of air, but I'll put 4 of them in 2 feet.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, that was I also call it coupling. That's the same way I've heard it described, probably from Joe, because he's only like an hour and a half from my house, maybe an hour. So I've had a lot of time I haven't talked to him recently, but I used to talk to him a bunch when I was at the audio shop, and that was one thing he had mentioned, that as you add multiple subwoofers, you don't have to double the size of everything, and if you do, it's going to end up being too big at some point, especially port area. So, and then I can't remember who I picked it up from, but the common chamber, common port being more efficient and louder, that's just something that's always known. Just common port, common chamber, it's just going to be louder. Now you may have some,
or you can reduce its size to gain to still have you gain ability to reduce things. That's why like the 4, 6, 8 box has a little less volume per sub than the 4/8 box. And if I was going to build a 2/8 box, it wouldn't be a whole lot smaller than the 4/8 box, but we'd need a lot less power per sub to them. It's kind of but
the program told me otherwise.
That's right. This isn't. I mean, there's fucking design guys that just are fucking disgusted with me and Drew because it's like I'm testing in the fucking real world, and I have seen the shit in a design and on paper that was fucking awful when I put it together, and I was like, it sure looked like it was going to be fucking outstanding, and this is not. Somebody mentioned Ronnie's sniper box, and that thing is fucking legendary. Like, I have no idea.
But that's a prime example of testing, because he had that's like a year of
daily hours. Like, man, he was going at it. It was fucking beautiful. He was obsessed with that thing, and he built a few different models of it. What's that?
I got a demo from him when he had the, was it 12 or 24?
24. I think it was
20. It was 24. Or 20?
It was something crazy like that. Yeah, it was the ruckus one. It could have been 20.
Hold on, I'll go find out.
It freaking slammed, man. It was, I was shocked. I mean, obviously you got that many subs. You think it would be loud, but yeah, it was quite a bit louder than I was thinking it was going to be. And it's just from all, like you said, all the testing. He's put in so many hours. That sniper box has gone through, I don't know, 20 versions, different lengths, ports, and 2 ports, 1 port, that, like so many things. And he's cranking like $150 out of a single sub.
Easy low 150s out of a single 8. If he was still actively playing with those things, I'd ship him one of each of my subwoofers, and see how they stack up. I'm pretty.
Well, I think
confident.
he may be getting back into it because he did just do a one of the new Hutchinson Origin subs, or
Yeah, I
he's
saw
working
that.
on it right now.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
Yeah, that'll be
So I
cool.
see videos with 14, but I could have sworn he had more than 14 at one
I
point.
thought he had like 20, but
I think it was 20. I think it was 26 and a half. So I think it was
it looked
5
like
rows
a
of
it looked like
20.
a suitcase at one point. It was a suitcase, and the box was in it or something like that. But yeah,
Well, this is
That
also
was the-
these videos are kind of old. 6 years ago. Oh man, that's fancy people stuff.
but yeah. I know
Yeah.
you were there too, Kyle, but it was me and Eddie, and it was like 1:00 in the morning, and I had fucked that box all up, all 6 of them.
Yeah,
But
it was funny.
my guy Kyle was like, "That wasn't Eddie, it was me." And I'm like, I know you participated in that whole ass process, but it was me and Eddie 1 a.m. at the cabinet shop, and we had started at 4, and I was finishing boxes and loading them in my truck and ruining them and being disappointed. But anyway, so yeah.
So
anyway.
next week, we're gonna have somebody on. Are you thinking, Drew? Like,
Yeah,
is this the plan?
Yeah, so
How we're gonna
we're
do it?
at least. Well, I'll say at least. So I'll be at MTI. I'm going to decide to drive up there early just so we can make sure I can still be able to do this. I'm going to drive up there a little bit early. Going to get Chris Pate from Mobile Toys Inc. to be on. I messaged him today to confirm, and he said it should be good to go. So we'll be able to talk. I'll get some fresh videos and fresh pictures of his center drive Civic, the one that I've shared a couple of pictures of before. Also, his C10, I think, sits in the shop. An absolute just perfection of a truck. It's just astounding. And then we can talk about his laundry list of World Championship SQ wins and just that long.
Yeah, that'll be a good episode for you guys to pick his brain and ask the correct questions. I'll just be more of a viewer, I think, for that one. But yeah, it sounds good. I mean, I've seen so much of his stuff on Facebook and Instagram. And, I don't know if I've ever met him in person or seen one of his cars in person, but looking forward to it.
You would know if you saw one of his personal, like one of the shop builds in person. You would know because it'd be the most astounding thing at the show, and it'd be just mind-blowingly amazing.
Yeah,
like he had 2 vehicles that scraped in the coast this year. Obviously I think he won best show and then best truck and a whole bunch of best everything. But I was chit-chat with him saying, what would it cost generally if you want to build that for a person? And he hit me with a very large 6-figure number. Like, it wasn't a 1 at the beginning of this number. And I was like,
yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
I mean, that makes sense.
For all the experience and shit, who knows how many hundreds, probably 1,000 hours of work.
Oh, God, let me see if I can. What's his name?
Chris's C10 is like one of the most badass, beautiful C10s I've ever seen. I've only seen pictures, but man, I have studied every inch of every image I've seen of that thing. I'm a C10 guy. I have a pretty crappy old 86 C10 that I intend to put some effort into and shit. Like 4 of my guys all own C10s here, so we're all those kind of dudes. And his is one of the absolute most badass on the planet. And Chris is a brilliant dude. I've talked to him a bit, and he's a great guy. He's got a lot of good advice, and you know, shit.
He
I'm a
knows
big fan
more.
of what he does.
He knows more than he's forgotten more than I've learned up to this point by a large margin.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Anything else you guys want to add before we cut loose? See any other?
Well, shit, I didn't get too far. Obviously, we went a long way, but I just want to say, you know, my man John Nolte has been a huge, influence on me. Steve Mead, man, I'm lucky to have those 2 guys like right near me. I mean, I pick up the phone and they're right there, and I go. John is a few miles that way, and Steve's a few miles that way, and those guys have always been amazing to me and happy to help out and you know, love what I do and appreciate me. And then, you know, I got John Raby has, you know, been an advocate for the products and services that I have. And man, shit, without those dudes, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And and shit, man, my wife is amazing, and man, she makes me a better person. I'm able to tolerate all of you motherfuckers way better because of her. But shit. I got, I just wanted to make sure that I throw my shout out for my main
for sure.
dudes.
I think
John Nolte, Steve Mead, John Raby. Man, without those guys, this would be very different. It'd be something, but it wouldn't be near what it is today.
That's it.
Yeah, and like you said, we'll have Nolte on here for sure.
John is
Robbie,
also
hopefully.
down to be on the show as well. I actually talked about
Steve,
it yesterday.
like you said, it might be a little harder for you to work in here, but if we could get Steve on here at some point, that'd be awesome, because obviously, he's a big part of our.
What it's gotta, the truth is that with something like Steve's a busy dude, and he's got a lot going on. He's got a lot of family. He's got a lot of work and a lot of editing all of his videos and doing his own stuff. And it's like. What good is it other than him just doing us a favor to jump on the show, and there's a reality to it'd be a huge thing. We'd get a shitload of followers just because it's Steve, and then we'd also get a bunch of
I guess I'm not looking at it
that are they're fans of ours, but they're like, oh, Steve Mead, and he's like, why the fuck am I doing this? I'm subjecting myself to these fucking lames. So that's the obstacle that we have to consider. So, but I mean, I obviously haven't asked him yet, but I don't want to ask him until I think it's going to be something that's worth his while. So,
I mean, I'm not looking at it like as a beneficial thing. It's to me, I look at it like it's Steve Mead. He's got a shit ton of real world hands-on experience in our industry. Forget all the other drama bullshit that comes along with being who he is. I mean,
but the drama stuff happens no matter who you are. Once you get
it's just going to happen. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, like with Steve, I say it'd be cool to talk to him, but we've actually had multiple pretty long conversations since my original DD1 comment like 2 months ago. So he's great. He's a super chill guy, super nice guy.
He really is. He's absolutely awesome. I just, so
people just get the internet side of him, which I used to not understand, but now I really understand.
Now you really understand.
I really get it.
Yeah.
Especially for someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, tries to tell me about it. I'm like,
what's that?
Yeah, and it's people you don't know who are chiming in all the time, and it's like,
trying to tell you how you're doing it wrong.
You don't know me, like, and if we knew each other, you wouldn't be saying this stupid shit, So
Now, I used to get upset with the way he would react to things, but now, as I've gotten,
now you're just like him.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of people hate you.
You just get so
well, you're a little more trolly. You troll people's troll posts.
Sometimes
I see you do it. It's pretty. It's kind of entertaining because you hit people with some knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, when people are talking shit to Steve and they're like in his post, he will blast them with massive amount of intelligence and just one, nobody fucking asked you, and here's why you're an idiot. And then go the fuck away, and now I'm gonna block you. And it was like, damn. But when you see it happen a half a dozen times, you're like, oh, I know why. That's because that's what I do now. I'm like,
to you. Yeah, I'm sure people tell you all the time how to do an undersea box. You're
they want to tell me. They want to tell me, oh, there's no way there's enough space in that box for those subs. I'm like, I engineered that motherfucking woofer and that box, and I designed them both to go together in that fucking truck right there, just like that. And that's
my truck.
That's mine. What the fuck? How in the fuck? And so but anyway, but what's funny about you, Drew, is that somebody will say some kind of wild ass hyper extreme one into the other political fucking bullshit, and you'll hit them with that right in the middle knowledge, what about this? And then it's like, that makes what I said not make any sense. So you're a dick.
Fuck you, liberal.
Yeah.
You voted for Biden. Yeah.
Oh God.
So I started having a seizure when you said that. I would never. Anyway, so pull up my share screen real quick. We'll look at this before we head out. That's
there
the
we
C10.
go. I just want Chris to tell us about this thing. This is something really special. It's
absolute
really beautiful.
unit Civic.
Did he do all of it? Do you know, like body, like the actual truck itself, or just the audio?
No, this is it means his truck. I know that, but as far as like what all he did, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's to the point where he knows where his strengths are, and he has the best people do the parts.
Right.
That I mean,
I'm pretty sure they did all the interior work on it for sure. I don't know if they did the bodywork and paint. That they built that one too, though, right? I mean,
that one that was one I asked about the price of.
Oh yeah,
that was at Scraping the Coast.
Damn.
And then Best of Show Lone Star, and then there's a Civic.
Oh, it's the center seat, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's been rebuilt, and I haven't heard it since the rebuild. But when I first heard it, the front 6 speakers were $25,000 by themselves.
Is it all Focal stuff, or what's in there?
It was all Focal and the white amps. I don't know what they are, but
Moscone?
Now it's I think it was Moscone. Now it's something different. I thought I had a picture of the back of it, but I don't. This is the last time I was there. He was like, let me turn it on, let it warm up for about an hour, and you can hear it. I'm like,
let the amps get to temperature.
No, the amps needed to warm up because they're all like real class AB, like super fancy stuff. And they have some young sales kid, early 20s, whatever. He's like, bro, you're gonna get to hear the Civic. He's like, I've been working here for like 2 years. I've never heard it.
Damn. That's fucking cool.
I'm like, well, have you asked?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but it takes too long to warm up, and Chris never hear that long normally. I was like, oh, okay.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, I'm excited for next week. Get to meet a legend and see some cool shit. Maybe learn a thing or two.
Yeah, no,
I went to a seminar that Chris was teaching at CES. 2018 or 19, might have been SEMA actually. It was. Fuck, I can't remember if it was SEMA or CES. I'm old. I don't know what the fuck. I've been to all of it, but it was really interesting. And he was, we're showing all kinds of cool router techniques. It was the Mobile Solutions guys and audio control seminar. It was really interesting. It was a lot of fun. I got to really meet him in person, took a picture, and we were talking about truck boxes. Naturally,
of course.
It was a fun experience. So, well, shoot, guys. I will look forward to talking to you guys next week, and all you other folks, be fucking nice to people, and shit. I love you guys, man. Have a great night.
You guys too.
Y'all have a good one.
See you guys next week, but I'm sure I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. So.
Yes.
Later,
guys.
Later, everybody.